Chapter 1126. This beast python was also at the middle stage of the Golden Core realm, but he had reached the peak of level 5 and was close to the late stage of the Golden Core realm. He was even more powerful than Feng Ao. It was said that he had once obtained the soul of an ancient beast, the mountain coiling python, by chance in an ancient relic. He fed it with his own blood and soul every day, and after 100 years of hard work, he merged with the soul and formed the mountain coiling python Dharma form. Once his dantian exploded, the mountain coiling python Dharma form would appear, and could kill a late stage of the Golden Core realm. Needless to say, this was a spy planted by the beast-controlling sect. He wanted to kill Jiang Tian in the name of a challenge. You are not enough. Didn't Shou Ruhai, that old man, want to kill me? Why don't you come out? In the face of the bloodthirsty pressure, Jiang Tian's clothes fluttered in the wind. He looked calm and a mocking smile appeared on his face. Outer Sect Disciple, Deacon of the Outer Sect Swordsmanship Hall, Lan Dai, challenges Cultivator Xing Tu. A beautiful young woman dressed in palace attire stepped into the air and walked out of the crowd. Her figure was voluptuous, and her face was charming and enchanting. She could be called a femme fatale. However, its aura was sharp and fierce to the extreme. It was like a shocking sword that could pierce through the sky. The gaze with which he looked at Jiang Tian was filled with hatred. It was as if he wanted to dismember Jiang Tian into 10,000 pieces to vent his hatred. Elder imparting skills from the Sword Palace of the Southern Region, Fairy Lan Dai. Lung Jianfeng, disciple of the Sword Palace, did lose to Xing Tu, but he didn't die or get hurt. He just lost face. There is no need to fight to the death, right? When the crowd saw this, they all exclaimed in disbelief. Everyone only knows one thing, but not the other. Only the Crown Prince of Extreme Frost laughed, and sent a message to the sons of the lords and city lords. It is said that Fairy Lan Dai has an affair with the abbot of the Demon Rock Temple, and Zen Master Wuxin is the product of their love. So she is not fighting for Lung Jianfeng, but for Zen Master Wuxin. She wants to avenge her son. When everyone heard this, their expressions changed drastically, and their hearts skipped a beat. Fairy Lauder is at the middle stage of the Gold Core realm. Her self-created Orchid Heart Pure Sword is said to be able to break the divine soul of others, and can kill a late-stage Gold Core realm cultivator. This time, this Star Butcher is really in trouble. This guy is really a troublemaker. I've offended too many people. The people behind the Crown Prince of Extreme Frost shook their heads with wry smiles. I told him long ago to keep a low profile, yet he was so decisive and ruthless. I wonder which one of them doesn't have a backer. At this moment, even Malbilian was terrified to the point her face went ghastly pale, and her entire body trembled like a sieve. She didn't dare get too close to Jiang Tian, and she avoided him from afar for fear of being implicated. Malbilian was only an outer sect disciple. To be specific, she was Fairy Luo Mei's maidservant. According to the rules, their positions and statuses were higher than Malbilian's, so they absolutely could not kill Malbilian. But as long as they want to kill you, can you escape? In the midst of a chaotic battle, any random divine ability would be enough to crush you into mincemeat. When the sect reprimanded them, they would say that the battle was dangerous, and that divine abilities were blind, and that they would accidentally injure and kill them by accident. Then they would shirk all responsibility. You guys stop Senior Star Butcher. I'm going to find my aunt. This is going to cause a huge mess. I'm going to die. 3 Golden Core cultivators attacked at once, and Fan Xiuzhu could not hold on any longer. His face changed color, and he pondered for a while. Suddenly, his body flashed a few times, and he fled outside. If the 3 of you want to fight, sure. Jiang Tian glanced at the 3 of them mockingly, and said with a faint smile. But you are not qualified to fight with me. Then let my disciple, Fairy Ling Long, fight with you to prove my strength. Will you really die if you don't act tough? Fan Xiuzhu was still flying through the air when he heard these words from afar. He staggered and fell to the ground, unable to get up. Are you kidding me? How can you let her fight with you? Li Wuji stomped his feet anxiously. That's right, after hearing this, not to mention the people present, even Li Wuji, Yi Karen and Lady Martial Demon, who knew Jiang Tian's background, couldn't believe it and were almost scared silly. They had killed a lot of cultivators along the way, but most of them were at the foundation establishment and qi refinement level. Jiang Tian and Fan Luomei were the ones who killed the golden core cultivators. Tang Linglong had just reached the second level of the foundation establishment. How could she compare with a golden core perfected immortal? Master, can I do it? Am I a match for him? In fact, Tang Linglong was also a bit panicked at this moment. She was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. That was a golden core cultivator. In the Taoist classics of Wuxia, those people were immortals. They could ride the clouds, eat the wind and drink the dew, and live for thousands of years without dying. This guy is no match for him at all. The Crown Prince of Extreme Frost had a mocking look in his eyes as he laughed coldly. That's why he let his disciple die as cannon fodder. He wants to buy time for Fairy Luomei to stop him. How despicable. It's okay. Jiang Tian ignored his mockery and said with a comforting smile, the sharpness of a sword has to be sharpened. You need to train. Extreme training. Jiang Tian patted her head and said with a warm smile, in today's battle, you will truly understand the power of the Taishan 13 swords. Besides, I'll be there to support you. Okay. Seeing Jiang Tian's gentle eyes, the fear in Tang Linglong's heart was swept away. She was full of confidence and enthusiasm. She nodded heavily. She had always been infatuated with Jiang Tian. However, she knew that Jiang Tian and his master's wife were very close. Therefore, she could only hide her feelings in the bottom of her heart. At this moment, she only felt that even if she were to be crushed to ashes immediately, it would be worth it as long as Jiang Tian could be sad for her for even a minute. Why should I be afraid of dying for him? She felt that her eyes were bloodshot and her vision was scarlet. As she approached the crowd, she staggered and almost fell. Look at this girl. She's so scared that she's trembling and almost fell. No wonder. How can an early-stage Foundation Establishment Realm Cultivator fight against a mid-stage Golden Core Realm True Immortal? This Star Butcher is really shameless. He's so afraid of death that he actually sent his disciple to her death? This girl is too naive. Master sent her to her death. And she really did it obediently. Seeing this, many female cultivators looked at Jiang Tian with disdain. They felt that it was not worth it for Tang Linglong. Haha, look, your disciple is so scared that she's trembling. Do you still want to fight with us? Star Butcher, you're so shameless. Everyone laughed loudly and their faces were full of mockery. Trash. Without exception, the Yanhuang tribesmen are all trash. This Star Butcher is trash. The disciple he taught is also trash. Feng Ao's face was full of disdain. His eyes were arrogant, and he was looking down on others as if he was looking at ants. How dare you be disrespectful to my master? Mocking and ridiculing incessantly, Tang Linglong slowly raised her head and looked at Feng Ao. A gentle breeze blew by, lifting up her silky black hair, revealing a pair of sharp and cold eyes. Die. A cry that sounded like the cry of a sword shot out from Tang Linglong's captivating red lips. She then formed a seal with her fingers. 3 of the blazing bone swords jumped out from the belt-like sword case. The 2 of them were finally going to fight. At this moment, many people frowned and shook their heads. Especially the Crown Prince of Extreme Frost. His eyes were full of mockery. They could naturally see that Tang Linglong was only at the second level of Foundation Establishment Realm. She had not even reached the mid-stage. With this level of cultivation, not to mention a mid-stage Golden Core Realm Cultivator, even an early-stage Golden Core Realm Cultivator, or a fake Core Realm Cultivator would be like an ant trying to shake a tree. With a Jindan in my Dantian, my life is in my hands. The strength of a Jindan was like that of a true immortal. It was already at another level of life. It would not decay for thousands of years, and its true yuan would condense into a solid state. It was endless and inexhaustible. It could easily suppress hundreds of late-stage Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators. Little girl, if you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Your head will be my stepping stone to kill the Star Butcher. Feng Ao sneered and waved his hands. Suddenly, the wind howled and a huge loophole-shaped vortex appeared above his head. The heaven and earth yuan qi within a few kilometers gathered into sword-shaped wind blades and floated in front of him. Under the light of thousands of wind blades, his aura changed. At this moment, his demeanor changed abruptly. Like a god of war who was controlling the wind, he stood proudly in the sky and suppressed everything around him. Chapter 1127. He's so powerful. No wonder he's a mid-stage golden core cultivator. If he joins the Changshan sect, he might even become a mid-level cultivator. The disciples of the Changshan sect were shocked. Even the crown prince of Extreme Frost nodded. They all felt a sense of suffocation. At this moment, all the air within a radius of a few kilometers had been sucked dry. The Feng family could control airflow and form wind blades. With this technique, they could control a giant city and stand tall for thousands of years. They were comparable to the royal family. Kill. With a cold and merciless snort, Feng Ao took the initiative to attack. He wanted to end the battle quickly, get rid of all obstacles, and immediately kill Jiang Tian. The wind blades in front of him were like dazzling lightning bolts as he flicked his fingers. Silver light flashed and lit up the entire Luomei courtyard. Suddenly, thousands of wind blades exploded at the same time, and formed a 100-meter-long silver dragon. With the power to split the sea, it crossed 1,000 meters in an instant, and went straight for Tang Linglong. With this wind blade dragon, Feng Ao could become one of the top 100 overlords in the northern region. He was as powerful as some of the leaders and ambassadors of the Changshan sect. As soon as the wind blades appeared, they formed a silver dragon. The sword energy was extremely cold, and it illuminated an area of 3 to 4 li. Even if Fairy Luomei was here, she would still have to carefully deal with it, not daring to be careless. Even Li Wuji's expression was grave. Yi Karen's pretty face was pale. The martial demon lady even subconsciously grabbed Jiang Tian's sleeve with a worried expression. Taishian 13 Swords, the first move. Sword of Mountains and Rivers. Tang Linglong had completely calmed down. She didn't panic, and her eyes were as deep as the stars. As she shouted, the 3 burning bone swords flew up and down. Suddenly, a vast sword chi and sword intent surged. Numerous towering peaks rose from the ground, lofty and precipitous. Numerous large rivers flowed endlessly, as if they had substance. What? She's just a foundation establishment cultivator. How can she create such a phenomenon? Many people's eyes almost popped out as they screamed. Every golden core overlord hoped to have a dharma form, which was sometimes called a phenomenon. The reason why golden core overlords were much more powerful than foundation establishment overlords was because of the power of the dharma form. However, this did not mean that every golden elixir cultivator would be able to manifest the power of a dharma power. He had to have at least a high-grade golden core, or even a transcendent grade 1. In order to form the dharma power, many Aurus cores were willing to do anything. Therefore, other dharma powers were born, such as refining weapons, talismans, formations, and other dharma powers. These dharma powers supplemented the formation of the dharma power. For example, Li Longyuan, who had formed an ordinary golden core, had to rely on external forces, such as the energy of the Big Dipper tree, to forcibly form the Big Dipper phenomenon. It was the same when Jiang Tian was attacked by the Elder Scrolls in the Light Temple. However, without exception, those capable of using Dharma Idol were all core formation cultivators. At least in West Earth, there was no precedent for foundation establishment cultivators. At this moment, Tang Linglong, who was obviously in the early stage of the foundation establishment stage, actually released a Dharma form with her sword. How could everyone not be shocked? The mountains and rivers under Tang Linglong's sword were vivid and lifelike, as if they were solid. However, they were all composed of flames. They were red and looked more like magma, exuding a terrible heat that made people's hearts palpitate. What? Seeing this, Feng Ao was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. His heart was filled with warning signs, and it was too late for him to retract his wind blades. Many mountains and rivers suddenly hung upside down, as if thousands of mountains were crashing down together, with endless power. Bang bang bang. The wind blade silver dragon could not withstand the power of this phenomenon at all. In a few seconds, it shattered and dissipated like paper, turning into rolling air currents that shot out. Sword covering mountains and rivers was extremely hot and heavy. Not only did it shatter the wind blade silver dragon, It also smashed the hard rock surface into pieces. The flying rocks exploded in the next second, or turned into magma that splattered everywhere. The terrible airwaves spread in all directions, destroying everything in their path. Even the spectators who were a kilometer away were shocked and quickly retreated. The divine abilities used by core formation cultivators were usually connected to the Dantian and Sea of Consciousness. Otherwise, it would be like a tree without roots, a duckweed without roots, collapsing with one hit and unable to become strong. However, at the same time, once the divine ability was defeated, the Dantian and Sea of Consciousness would often suffer a strong backlash. Following the destruction of the Windblade Silver Dragon, Feng Ao's Dantian suddenly shook violently. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and his face twisted in pain. "Save me!" Amidst a scream filled with unwillingness and fear, he endured the dizziness and executed his footwork. He flew out like a withered leaf in a gale. Although he staggered, his speed was still very fast. "Damn girl, you're so fierce." The beast python's demonic vertical pupils flashed coldly, and it made a hand sign. Suddenly, a roar came from the Dantian, and a colorful light rushed out from the Dantian. Its speed was as fast as lightning, wanting to block Tang Linglong. Die. However, Tang Linglong's speed was even faster. Before Feng Ao's first step back landed, she had already soared into the sky, turning into a fiery red afterimage. Dozens of crimson-red blazing bone swords shot out from her waist. Everyone only saw 10 rays of sword light that were like red waterfalls flying up and down like rainbows chasing each other, and they illuminated the surroundings to the point it was completely red. The scorching temperature roasted all the spirit herbs and trees, and many buildings were only saved from the fate of being roasted into magma by the formation runes that shot into the sky. In just a breath's time, with a bang, 10 blazing bone swords crossed the distance of 1,000 meters, like antelopes hanging their horns, and like white horses flashing through a gap. They pierced through a subtle and peerless angle, piercing through many defenses, piercing through his protective True Yuan armor aura chi, and actually forcefully piercing through Feng Ao's chest. 10 swords pierced through the chest. "You can't kill me." At this time, Feng Ao's Dantian was stained with blood, and the corner of his mouth kept spitting out blood foam. Although he was heavily injured, he did not die immediately. Gold core experts were known to be immortal for 1,000 years. How could they be so easy to kill? As long as the gold core was not broken and the soul was not destroyed, they could reconstruct their body, and even take over the body. "Damn girl, I'll kill you." Feng Ao floated in the air with a face full of hatred. His teeth were almost crushed, and he stared at Tang Linglong with resentment. He was the elite genius of the Feng family, with a cultivation of gold core, and even had the chance to succeed as the governor of Windblade City and control the giant city. He was valued by many elders, even more than Crown Prince Mo Yang. He was one of the most powerful talents under 100 years old in the northern region. But now he was severely injured by a disciple of Jiang Tian. He could not accept this, and his hatred for Tang Linglong and Jiang Tian was monstrous. However, as soon as he finished speaking, endless light bloomed in his body, and his bones and internal organs were clearly visible. His 7 orifices were like electric welding guns, shooting out sharp blue flames like arrows. "Ah!" Feng Ao screamed with fear and unwillingness. The next moment, his body exploded, and he died an unnatural death. How is it possible? At this moment, not only were the disciples of the Chongqing sect dumbfounded, Li Wuji and the other experts of Wuxia could not believe it, and even the Crown Prince of Extreme Frost's face changed dramatically. Tang Linglong was clearly a cultivator in the early stage of foundation establishment, but she could create a mountain and river vision, and her sword chi could travel thousands of meters. Her swordsmanship and mystique were so powerful that even a gold core expert and a sword master could not catch up with her. Was she still a member of the Yanhuang tribe? Was she still a little girl in her early 20s? If she was so strong, then how strong was her master, Star Butcher? At this moment, the gazes everyone looked at Jiang Tian no longer contained the slightest trace of ridicule and contempt, and it was replaced with deep fear and bewilderment. "You can't even defeat my disciple? As expected, you can't even withstand a single blow. You're just a clown." Only Jiang Tian's face was calm, And he was not surprised at all. Cultivation was cultivation, and combat strength was combat strength. Cultivation was usually measured by the amount of true origin, or to put it bluntly, it was the aura. But there were too many factors that affected combat strength. From the cultivator's own body, the quality of true origin, physical body, soul, and from the outside, cultivation techniques, martial techniques, magical treasures. All aspects would affect a cultivator's combat strength. Otherwise, how could there be so many cross-level challenges and killing enemies? When everyone met, there was no need to fight. Once the true origin cultivation was shown, the weak could just kill themselves. This set of 13 Taishian swords was created by him and his old friend in the Nine Clouds continent, the Taishian Celestial Lord. It was known for its sharpness, indomitable momentum, and powerful attacks. That year, the Taishian Celestial Lord started with this set of sword techniques as a small woodcutter. He swept through the 8 wastelands, shook the 6 directions, and consecutively defeated 13 strong sword cultivator sections. His name shook the Nine Clouds continent, and finally, he inherited the mandate of heaven and became an immortal emperor. Besides, the Blazing Bone Sword was a magical treasure that Jiang Tian had meticulously refined. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a top-grade spiritual treasure. It could be said that Tang Linglong was completely superior to Feng Ao in terms of true origin quality, cultivation techniques, martial techniques, and magical treasures. She could learn from each other's strengths to make up for her weaknesses. What was so difficult about killing Feng Ao? And among the crowd, the beast python who had just helped his companion was not only shocked and frightened, but also endlessly embarrassed. Damn it! How did the Imperial Beast sect get their information? They didn't say that Star Butcher had a disciple with Jindan battle strength. At this moment, seeing that Feng Ao, whose cultivation level was similar to his, was killed in a blink of an eye, the beast python wanted to cry but had no tears. His face was extremely embarrassed. The 5-colored light that spurted out from his dantian did not stop Tang Linglong's flying sword. It landed in the air, and shockingly, it was the shadow of a mountain coiling python that was 100 zhang long. This mountain coiling python's avatar was overflowing with domineering aura. It was too eye-catching and made him, who was in a dilemma, unable to advance or retreat. At this moment he could neither withdraw his dantian nor not withdraw his avatar. But Fairy Lauder was different from him. She wanted to avenge her son's death, and had the heart to fight to the death. Immediately, her beautiful face was filled with killing intent. She looked at the beast python and said coldly, "Beast python, if you are scared off by a little girl from the Yanhuang tribe, a servant girl, how can you establish yourself in the northern region in the future?" When these words came out, everyone present looked at the beast python. They did not know if he would fight to the death or pinch his nose and give up. Chapter 11:28. The situation is different from the information we collected. We have to reevaluate it. Why are you in such a hurry? The beast python's expression changed slightly. He was in a dilemma. Fairy Lauder's reminder was very tactful. But in fact, the beast python knew that the situation was 10 times, no 100 times more serious than what Lauder had said. Previously, Jiang Tian defeated Shou Lei, Shou Ruhai's grandson. When he went up the mountain, he defeated Shou Ruhai's soul avatar and humiliated him. According to the rules of the Changshan sect, the strong and high-ranking members had no right to challenge the low-ranking members. Shou Ruhai could not fight. However, Shou Ruhai hated Jiang Tian, who had repeatedly humiliated him to the bone. Shou Ruhai had given him a death order. If he couldn't kill Jiang Tian, he would definitely be punished severely. He came to challenge Jiang Tian aggressively and arrogantly, but he could not even kill Jiang Tian's disciple. This was tantamount to slapping Shou Ruhai's face heavily. After the left slap, the right slap, the right slap. How could Shou Ruhai tolerate this? He would probably eat him alive to vent his anger. No, I can't defeat her. I'll find a reason to retreat later. How about I hide my identity and have diarrhea? The beast python naturally put away the mountain coiling python avatar. The more he thought about it, the more scared he became. He decided to retreat, and did not want to fight with Tang Linglong. But at this moment, He suddenly felt that he was being stared at by a peerless beast. He felt a chill in his heart. Beast Python. At this time, a deacon from the elder courtyard stepped on the void and flew over while shouting in a low voice. Here. The beast python secretly complained. It was obvious that Shorahai had been paying attention to this place. There was no chance for him to escape. The deacon came forward and handed over a piece of armor. His eyes were cold and full of warning, and he said, "Yellow serpent armor, Elder Ruhai's precious treasure. I'll give it to you now. You know what to do, right?" "Thank you, Elder, for giving me this treasure. I'll kill the enemy bravely." The beast python was shocked and quickly put on the yellow serpent armor. Yellow serpent armor. Shorahai really put in a lot of effort this time. He even took out his own protective treasure. But there's no other way. The other subordinates of Shorahai had too high a position and could not challenge Star Butcher. We can only let the beast python take the lead. Many disciples of the Chongqing sect present exclaimed, thinking that Tang Linglong and even Jiang Tian were dead this time. This yellow serpent armor was made 500 years ago by Shorahai after he killed a powerful gold core realm beast called the yellow serpent dragon. Afterwards, Shorahai treated it as a treasure and refined it daily for 500 years. It was rumored that this treasure was indestructible and could withstand the continuous attacks of a late-stage gold core cultivator. With such a spiritual treasure and the mountain coiling python in his dantian, killing Tang Linglong would be a piece of cake. "Xingtu Linglong, are you scared? If you're afraid, then kneel on the ground and stretch out your neck to be executed." Wearing the armor, the beast python felt as if it was going to explode. It felt as if it could crush the earth with one stomp and tear the sky with one palm. It could not help but roar to the sky. In fact, it was not an illusion. The yellow serpent armor was an item that could both attack and defend. It contained the blood essence of the yellow serpent dragon, which could seep into its skin and blood vessels. It could temporarily increase its combat strength and blood essence like a stimulant to an athlete. "I'm very merciful. I'll leave your bodies intact." Instantly, the tendons on the python's entire body swelled up and bulged. Its veins bulged up high like thick earthworms. The vital blood in its entire body seethed and filled the sky, and its eyes were red to the point it seemed as if blood would drip out, causing it to be extremely monstrous and brutal. At this time, Prince Jihan sneered and shook his head. "This time, Fairy Linglong will definitely die." Fairy Lauder also took a step back and snorted. The beast python's combat strength is comparable to that of a late-stage gold core cultivator. It can kill the two of them as easily as killing chickens. Her meaning was obvious. There was no need for her to do anything. Then there was no need to kill the enemy with her own hands. Wouldn't it be great to watch Jiang Tian and Tang Linglong be trampled into mud? "How dare you ask my master to kneel? How dare you? You insulted my master, die." After killing Feng Ao, Tang Linglong's confidence doubled. Her hair fluttered in the wind, and her eyes were filled with determination. She said coldly, "Today I'll kill you. Also, Fairy Lauder, don't retreat. Let's attack together." Crazy. This woman is completely crazy. Many people present were stunned and could not believe it. This woman's strength was not ordinary. But how could two middle-stage gold core cultivators be so easy to deal with? She was courting death. "Stupid girl, do you want to die? Then I'll fulfill your wish. I'll chop you into pieces first, and then I'll grind Xingtu into ashes." Fairy Lauder shouted coldly, and her sword jumped out of the scabbard automatically. Kill. However, with a violent roar, the beast python had already made a move. His dantian hissed, and the mountain coiling python rushed out. This mountain coiling python was extraordinary. It was about 100 feet long and looked like a colorful waterfall. Its demonic vertical pupils flickered with frightening light, and its head was like a villa. Its two millstone-like mouths opened, and its teeth were like iron hooks. The snake's forked tongue was as thick as an adult's arm. "Sword of mountains and rivers." Tang Linglong shouted, and another 10 bone swords burst out. When everyone heard this, they were stunned and did not know whether to laugh or cry. This move again? Does he only know this move? After all, Tang Linglong had just stepped into the foundation establishment stage. The many moves of the Taishian 13 swords were too exquisite and vast, and she could not control them. However, one move could conquer the world. She had already mastered the first move, Sword of Mountains and Rivers, and she could use it freely. At this moment, she was coping with all changes by remaining unchanged. Trash. Is this all you can do? The beast python was humiliated, and the disdain in its eyes was extremely strong. His dantian spewed out a bloody light. Instantly, the giant python covered the sky like a steel train. It seemed to be able to crush boulders and collapse mountains. As fast as lightning, it coiled towards Tang Linglong. Do I need a second move to kill you? Seeing the giant python approaching, Tang Linglong's 10 blazing flying swords all turned into flaming mountains that rose from the ground. They grew taller and taller, and they were 100 meters tall, protecting her firmly. The giant python's body coiled around the 10 mountain peaks tightly. It wanted to crush them and squeeze Tang Linglong into the mountain peaks. Crack! Crack! Deafening explosions rang out, and cracks appeared on many of the flaming mountains. However, the giant python did not have it easy either. It was burned until large patches of scales fell off, and there was a pungent burnt smell. This was not an illusion. This giant python phenomenon was the skeleton of the mountain coiling python's soul, and the beast python's essence, blood and vital essence were injected into it. When burned by high temperatures, it would emit a smell. Bang! 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 The 3 mountains crumbled, revealing the bone swords. Tang Linglong's expression changed slightly. Her eyes were cold, and she shouted repeatedly. Suddenly, the blazing bone swords flew out of the sword case and turned into flaming mountains and rivers, protecting her from top to bottom. In the end, all 24 blazing bone swords burst out, barely blocking the beast python's attack. She has no more Dharma treasures or weapons. Kill her while she's down. Fairy Lauder's clear eyes were cold, and she waved the sword in her hand lightly, without a trace of anger. However, only golden core cultivators could sense a vast spiritual power erupting from her sword, turning into tens of thousands of swords and shooting towards Tang Linglong's mind. Orchid Heart Sword. Chaotic Emotions Slash. At this moment, Tang Linglong was instantly confused, and images that made her heart palpitate appeared in her mind. First slash. Broken family ties, lonely heart. A low shout that sounded like a demon's language. Tang Linglong suddenly saw her grandfather, Tang Guozhu. His face was old and frail. His eyes were filled with tears as he called out her name with love and reluctance. He staggered and rode a crane to the west. Grandpa! Tang Linglong's beautiful eyes were dazed, and she roared out. At the same time, bang! In the explosion, a mountain of bone swords collapsed under the pressure of the mountain coiling python's thick body. She was hit by the violent airflow and swayed in the wind like a withered leaf. Second slash. Lover leaves, storm rises. Sword light flashed, and a loud incantation sounded in the depths of Tang Linglong's mind. Master, Masteress. Tang Linglong's eyes widened. She clearly saw Jiang Tian holding Qinger and walking over with a livid face. Evil disciple. How dare you covet my husband's beauty? You don't deserve to be our disciple. You. Get out of the sect. Qinger was in Jiang Tian's arms, pleasing him. When she turned her head, her beautiful face was as cold as ice that would not melt for 10,000 years, and she shouted sternly. Expelling her from the sect is too easy for her. Kill her. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of contempt, disgust, disdain, and ridicule. The sharp sword pierced through his chest, and blood spurted out from his back. Master, why are you doing this? Tang Linglong's delicate body trembled violently. Her eyes were scarlet, and tears of blood seeped out. She looked up to the sky and cried out in grief. Bang! 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 3 more bone sword volcanoes were shattered. Humph, you're still a mortal ant after all. You don't know how to sever your emotions and desires. This fairy, with a word, can make you fall into a demon. Fairy Lauder's beautiful face was full of coldness, twisted and ferocious, and filled with the joy and excitement of revenge. Although he didn't kill Jiang Tian, he killed his favorite disciple. Jiang Tian's heart must be in great pain. Senior, why aren't you making a move? Look at how Linglong has been tortured. Lady Wu was so anxious that she stomped her feet. Her temperament is too soft, and her Dao heart is not tough enough. She deserves this calamity. If she doesn't survive this calamity, it will be difficult for her to become a great talent. Jiang Tian's expression was calm, and his gaze was focused. Jiang Tian wanted to turn every disciple into a peerless expert. How could a flower in a greenhouse withstand a storm? Tang Linglong had to be tempered. This time he was present and could save her. But if he was not present, how could they take charge alone? / Friendship collapses. Thousands of arrows piercing the heart. Seeing that Jiang Tian's expression was still calm, Fairy Lauder snorted disdainfully, and the third incantation erupted along with the sword momentum. Chapter 1129. At this time, Tang Linglong's eyes were already scarlet, and tears of blood were gurgling. They were full of confusion, hatred, resentment, depression, and grievance. But merciless mental attacks followed one after another. Suddenly, Huang Linger, Sasaki Aisha, Zhao Yuanquan, and other disciples walked out together and began to talk sarcastically. You're ugly and have poor talent, but you still dare to love Master. Why don't you take a piss and look in the mirror? What kind of person are you? Huang Linger smiled disdainfully, and her eyes were as cold as a glacier. She was originally so gentle, loving, kind, and never spoke loudly, but at this moment, she was so heartless, contemptuous, and vicious. Tang Linglong, you're a waste. You're jealous every day in the sect, and you often duel with me. You're not afraid of delaying the battle, and you have no awareness of the overall situation. Sasaki Aisha's face was also full of ridicule. For a time, many sarcastic remarks came, and they were incessant, as if many poisonous snakes were spitting out their tongues. One figure after another appeared, and the crowd was densely packed. Even Tang Linglong's kindergarten classmates came out to humiliate her. Why? Tang Linglong felt as if her heart had been pierced by thousands of arrows. Her heart was quickly shattered, and she was in so much pain that she wanted to die. I don't accept this. Why can't I love him? I'm not a waste. My life is in my hands, not in the hands of God. Suddenly, Tang Linglong shouted, and the emotions in her eyes disappeared, turning into a kind of extreme obsession, and then spurted out flames of anger. An intense infatuated love transformed into an unyielding and monstrous battle intent that exploded in his mind. His violent willpower swept out in all directions. Suddenly many illusions in her mind, like broken screens, all collapsed and disappeared. Tang Linglong's eyes were still scarlet, but her eyes gradually became clear, and she could see the situation around her. Puff! At the moment when the illusions were broken, Fairy Lauder was shocked and took a few steps back. Her divine sense attack was broken, and she also suffered a backlash. A trace of blood seeped out of the corner of her mouth. You can actually break my Orchid Heart Essence sword. The woman's eyes were filled with horror. With her cultivation level, she could naturally see that Tang Linglong didn't have a very strong divine sense at all. However, he had actually used the most primitive form of willpower to break her divine sense attack. However, at this time, the mountain coiling python crushed a few more bone sword mountains. Tang Linglong's clothes were torn and her flesh was torn. She released many flying swords in succession and condensed them again, barely pushing the mountain coiling python away. Kill her while she's at her weakest. That's right. At this moment, she has already used all her magical treasures. She has no more tricks up her sleeves. Fairy Lauder and the beast python looked at each other and quickly rushed towards the Tang Linglong, attacking the bone sword mountain. Both of them were in the late stage of the golden core realm. Every move they made had the power to shatter mountains and crack the earth. At this time, the two of them exerted their full strength and did not hold back. Suddenly, the bone sword mountain trembled violently and kept collapsing. Tang Linglong was in a difficult position and was extremely miserable. Even if her bone swords are magical treasures, they can't last 3 breaths. She will definitely die. The Crown Prince of Extreme Frost sneered and shook his head. The surrounding people were full of mockery, as if Tang Linglong was already a dead person. At this moment, he still hasn't made a move. He's a coward. How despicable. Many people, especially the female cultivators, had expressions of disdain and mockery on their faces that had reached their peak. "Do you think I'm easy to bully?" Suddenly, a loud shout was heard. The violent energy on the 24 burning bone swords pushed the mountain coiling python avatar horizontally and tore a crack open. Tang Linglong stepped out of the crack. Her scarlet eyes were filled with a wild and bloodthirsty aura, like a female demon. What? The beast python was stunned and was about to attack. Tang Linglong removed the spine sword case from her waist, raised it high, and swung it down. Boom! The spine sword case expanded in the wind and became a few hundred meters long in an instant. It fell from the sky like a flaming bullet train. Block! The beast python was shocked. It had never thought that Tang Linglong's sword case was also a magical treasure. It was even more powerful than the burning bone swords. Suddenly, the shadow of a yellow dragon appeared from the armor and rushed up, trying to block the spine sword case. However, there was no need for that at all. The phantom of the flood dragon instantly shattered. Then, the spine sword box continued to smash down like 10,000 mountains. It was filled with boundless might. Open! In an instant, the beast python raised its hands to the sky and released endless power. Even its golden core was burning and the boiling blood chi filled the surroundings. Bang! The spine sword scabbard was like a flood dragon cutting through the wind in waves. It forcefully split open the chi and blood astral wind, and heavily slammed onto the beast python's head. Boom! The beast python's head exploded, its neck exploded, its chest exploded, and its forelimbs exploded. The yellow dragon armor was like a string of firecrackers exploding inch by inch at an extremely fast speed. Then, under the extremely high temperature of the sword sheath, everything turned into ashes and smoke. Die. At this time, Fairy Lauder had already attacked Tang Linglong's side. A cold sword light with a fierce spiritual attack stabbed toward her chest. At this time, the spine sword case in Tang Linglong's hand had returned to a length of more than 10 meters, like a fiery red whip. Seeing the vicious sword stabbing toward her, Tang Linglong raised her eyebrows and shouted coldly, "Aunt, you are courting death." Her right hand shook. Whoosh! The sword sheath on her spine coiled up like a fiery snake, instantly shattering her sword inch by inch. Tang Linglong stepped forward and grabbed Fairy Lauder's throat like an eagle catching a chick. She asked condescendingly, "How dare you disrespect my master?" Jiang Tian frowned and shook his head gently. After all, the other party was a Jindan. Her body was tougher and her true essence was more vigorous. It was too risky for Tang Linglong to fight at such a close distance. However, Tang Linglong's aura was too strong. Fairy Lauder was scared out of her wits. She broke out in a cold sweat and trembled. For a moment she did not react. "Go to hell!" Tang Linglong shouted coldly. Her eyes were cold. She crushed Fairy Lauder's throat and forcefully pulled out her spine. Fairy Lauder's eyes dimmed and her body fell. Jiang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. He quickly flicked his finger and shattered Lauder's Jindan to prevent her from reviving. At this time, the mountain coiling python vision suddenly cracked under the power of the 24 blazing bone swords without the support of the beast python's chi and blood. Then it exploded uncontrollably. A Foundation establishment cultivator killed 3 Jindan cultivators in a row. Terrifying, too terrifying. How can a Yanhuang clansman be so powerful? Everyone was dumbfounded. They could not believe it. There seemed to be a heavy stone in their hearts that could not be removed. This is going to be a huge disgrace. Especially the Crown Prince of Extreme Frost. Other than shock and fear, his face was flushed red. He wanted to find a hole to hide in and disappear before everyone's eyes. Before this, he had looked down on Jiang Tian and Tang Linglong. However, the current outcome was like a slap to his face. Before this, he had expressed on many occasions that he was ashamed to be associated with Jiang Tian. However, now it seemed that he was not even a match for Jiang Tian's disciple. Jiang Tian had not targeted him from the beginning to the end. He had not even looked at him. However, every time he thought of his arrogant words, the Crown Prince of Extreme Frost felt like his face had been slapped swollen. He was like a clown. After a while, the smoke dissipated and the dust settled. Luomei courtyard regained its peace. "Master, I didn't embarrass you this time." Tang Linglong seemed to have collapsed. She landed weakly in the courtyard and staggered over. She smiled with tears in her eyes and looked at Jiang Tian. Her eyes were pitiful and humble. She was like a child who had scored high and wanted to be praised by her parents. She had killed someone of a higher level than her. It was a narrow victory. At this moment, she was in a sorry state. Her clothes were tattered, revealing her snow-white skin. She was covered in blood and her little face was dirty. However, she was smiling brightly and happily. Not bad. Jiang Tian took off his white robe and draped it over her body. He helped her tighten her clothes and smiled, nodding his head in approval. Tang Linglong tugged at her clothes. She could still feel her master's warmth on the robe. She was so happy that tears rolled down her face. She suppressed the urge to throw herself into Jiang Tian's arms and cry. Jiang Tian's standards were too high and he was strict. He rarely praised her. At this moment, her heart was sweeter than honey. Even if she died, it would be worth it. Jiang Tian's expression was calm as he swept his gaze over the crowd, and he said indifferently, "I wonder who still wants to come up and challenge me? My disciple is already tired. I will accept the challenge next." "We don't dare." Boom. The crowd retreated like grasshoppers. They instantly retreated a kilometer away. Their faces were filled with fear. They were afraid that Jiang Tian would target them. The Crown Prince of Extreme Frost was too shocked to react. He stayed where he was and became very conspicuous. Jiang Tian's gaze instantly locked onto him. "Damn it, all of you ran faster than rabbits. Most importantly, you didn't even greet me before you ran. What a scam." The Crown Prince of Extreme Frost was helpless. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Chapter 1130. "Brat, are you not leaving because you want to challenge me?" Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes and looked at the Extreme Frost Crown Prince with a faint smile. No. I wouldn't dare." Hearing this, the Extreme Frost Crown Prince was so frightened that he almost fell from the sky. He knew when to yield and when not to. He quickly bowed deeply and smiled humbly. "I'm just admiring Senior Xing Tu's elegant demeanor and can't extricate myself from it. I just can't bear to leave. I'll leave now. Extreme Frost is really good at bootlicking. Xing Tu is really an expert. He didn't even make a move personally. Just his disciple can make the Extreme Frost Crown Prince bow down to him." Countless geniuses and experts present couldn't help but be shocked and envious when they saw this scene. Many people thought that even if this person was from the Yan Huang tribe, he would be able to stand tall in the longevity sect with such amazing talent. Many people even thought that even if the sect leader, Ming Ru, disapproved of him, she would think highly of him and might even change the policies of the entire Yan Huang tribe. "This brat can cultivate a Jindan realm expert. I'm afraid his battle strength is close to the late Jindan realm." The deacon, Shouruhai, stared at Jiang Tian with a heavy heart. His eyes narrowed and revealed a trace of murderous intent, but he didn't act rashly. Jiang Tian had already killed Shoulei and Feng Batian. Now that his disciple had killed the core elites of the two families, the two perfected immortal realm experts behind them wouldn't let this go easily. However, he couldn't control Jiang Tian's cultivation level now. He might not even be a match for him, so he didn't dare to challenge him. Mao Billion watched with her eyes wide open. At this time, those who were much stronger than her father, and could even stand shoulder to shoulder with Fairy Luo Mei retreated quickly like the receding tide. It was clear that they were extremely wary of Jiang Tian. Where did he come from? He's actually so strong. Mao Billion looked at Jiang Tian with a complicated gaze. She wanted to get closer to him, but after thinking about it, she stopped in her tracks. "Since no one wants to challenge me, then hurry up and scram." Jiang Tian flicked his sleeves and walked towards the hall, as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. His domineering voice resounded throughout the entire area. Even a small portion of the sect could hear him. "However, I, Star Slaughter, welcome everyone to challenge me and die at any time, as long as you are not afraid of death." As soon as these words were spoken, the entire place turned solemn. The entire Changshan sect was in great shock. Many people shook their heads and smiled bitterly. This Star Slaughter was truly overbearing and overbearing. However, other than those hall masters and elders, among the inner disciples, even the personal disciples from the previous batches, there was probably no one who could suppress him. What crown prince of extreme frost? He was far too weak. After hearing the news of the challenge, Fan Luomei hurried back. She took advantage of the banquet in the courtyard to discuss the matter. Fellow Taoist Grand Primordium, you've already offended too many people. What to do? Where is the deathless sect leader? Let's quickly assassinate him and return to Earth. Li Wuji had already set up a soundproof restriction, so there was no need for him to hide. He was full of anxiety and uneasiness. If the deathless sect leader is in the sect, why would I wait until now? Jiang Tian smiled bitterly. Li Wuji and the others' expressions changed drastically. They looked at Fan Luomei and said, Fellow Taoist Grand Primordium, are you serious? The deathless sect leader Ming Rui is not here. A trace of worry flashed across Fan Luomei's face. She nodded and said, That's right. I also just found out that the deathless sect leader, Ming Rui, is not in the sect. I don't know where she is secretly cultivating in seclusion. Then what should we do? A pack of wolves is waiting for us. At this moment, Lady Wu's face was pale, and she was full of worry and nervousness. It is said that she will only come out of seclusion 1 month later during the blood-bathing ceremony. Fan Luomei smiled bitterly and said, At that time, all the disciples will be gathered. I'm afraid Senior Star Slaughter won't be able to assassinate her. Fan Luomei had already introduced it before. The longevity sect encouraged competition. Almost every day, disciples would fight on the life and death platform. However, the scale was usually small, only 3 to 5 people. The blood-bathing ceremony was a competition for the entire sect. Even the sect leader, Ming Rui, had to accept the challenge. The problem was that all the disciples who were out on missions would have to come back by then. Tens of thousands of people would be gathered at the ceremony. How would Jiang Tian have a chance to do anything? Who said I'm going to sneak up on her? Jiang Tian gently sipped his tea. His expression was calm as he leisurely said, I've been waiting for the blood-bathing ceremony. I'm going to kill Ming Rui in front of tens of thousands of people, and become the sect leader of the longevity sect. Pfft. Hearing this, Li Wuji spat out a mouthful of tea and said incoherently with a trembling voice, She's only 1 step away from the nascent soul level. You can just assassinate her. Why do you have to fight her head-on? Will you die if you don't show off? Senior Grand Primordium is going to have a public competition. Fan Luomei also looked worriedly at Jiang Tian, wanting to say something but hesitating. Jiang Tian did have the combat ability of a golden core cultivator, but he was only at the 4th level of the foundation establishment level after all. There was a huge gap between him and Ming Rui. Fan Luomei didn't agree with Jiang Tian's plan to kill the sect leader of the longevity sect. She thought the chance of winning was extremely slim. However, Jiang Tian might have a chance to survive if he tried to assassinate her, but he wouldn't even have a chance of winning in a head-on battle. I'm not pretending. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said slowly, That's right. The longevity sect, which has been around for thousands of years, has already formed fixed doctrines, beliefs, policies, organizational structures and procedures, as well as a perfect self-operating mechanism. When a sect leader is killed, a new sect leader will take his place. The policy toward Earth will also continue. It will never be ruined because of anyone. Killing Ming Rui is just scratching an itch through one's boots. I'm not only going to destroy the sect leader of the longevity sect, but also the beliefs and doctrines of the longevity sect. Only in this way can their attitude toward Earth be completely changed. As the old saying goes, it's better to remove the firewood from under the cauldron than to raise the water to stop boiling. We have to solve the problem from the root. Hearing this, Yi Karen and the others felt that it was very reasonable. They even admired Jiang Tian very much. However, Ming Rui was too powerful. Would Jiang Tian win this time? Would he create a miracle? Everyone was extremely uneasy and had no confidence at all. A month passed quickly. During this period, Fan Luomei went deep into the sect every day to inquire about Ming Rui, but Ming Rui never came back. Although Shou Ruhai, Feng Jinshan, and many other enemies didn't take action again, everyone was getting more and more anxious. They were so nervous that their patience was running out. Although there were a lot of resources in Luome courtyard, Li Wuji was not in the mood to cultivate. He was like an ant on a hot pan. On the contrary, Tang Linglong's Taoist heart had been sharpened like never before in the previous battle. She had a deep understanding. With the support of vast resources and Jiang Tian's guidance, she broke through again and reached the third level of the foundation establishment stage. Early in the morning, the bell rang throughout the 10,000-year mountain. A majestic voice came to everyone's ears. Today, in the Longevity Square, we will hold the blood-bathing ceremony. The Holy Child, Holy Virgin, and candidate disciples will enter the sect. Those who are inner sect disciples and above, come to the square immediately. The sect leader will come in person. Don't be negligent. Ming Rui is coming back. Hearing this, Fairy Luome's delicate body trembled. She was awakened from meditation, and suddenly opened her eyes. This war that concerns the fate of the two worlds is finally about to begin. This woman's incomparably beautiful face revealed a deep solemnity and worry, and her eyes were filled with bewilderment and terror. Chapter 1131. Fan Luome was deeply worried. She walked up to Jiang Tian, who was meditating, and said softly, "Brother Jiang Tian, Senior, let's go? Ming Rui should be back this time." "Okay." Jiang Tian happily agreed. He opened his eyes, and a cold light flashed in them as he stood up. This time, Jiang Tian changed into the uniform of a candidate disciple, and followed Fairy Luome to the Longevity Square. The tallest mountain on the Longevity Mountain was called the Longevity Peak. The top of the mountain was flattened by a majestic force, and made into a platform. It was the famous Longevity Square. The square was the most important place for the Longevity sect's large-scale competition, conferment ceremony, and other large-scale collective affairs. It was also the place where the blood-bathing ceremony was held. The foot of the mountain was huge. When Jiang Tian arrived, he stopped and saw that there were many camps on the mountain. There were 10,000 people in each camp. There were 100,000 people in total, and they were guarded by the disciples. There were men and women, old and young. There were cultivators and ordinary people. But the strange thing was that all of them were energetic and full of vitality. They even had some foundation. It was obvious that they had been strictly selected. The guards were on high alert. Some of the people who were guarded were confused, and some were excited. "They are servant disciples?" Yi Karen was surprised. "They are blood food," Fairy Luome said softly with a complicated look in her eyes. "Blood food? What is that?" Yi Karen asked. "You will know soon." Fairy Luome shook her head and did not explain further. It was as if she was unwilling to talk more. However, Jiang Tian's face was filled with mockery. He coldly snorted and walked up the stairs. The stone steps were long and ancient, as if there was no end. It led to the top of the mountain that was surrounded by clouds. On both sides of the road, there were two big words. These two lines of words were written in Chinese. "There is no one stronger than the strong. 10,000 mountains are not as high as this mountain." Every word was as big as a mountain, and could be seen from 10 miles away. It was majestic. A domineering aura of someone who wanted to climb to the peak of cultivation and sweep the world was revealed. This was written 100 years ago when Ming Rui ascended to the position of sect master. Although she is from ancient Tianzhu, she likes the Chinese characters and techniques of the Yan Huang tribe. Luome explained. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and walked up unhurriedly. The huge square at the top of the mountain had a radius of 10 miles. It was paved with huge rocks of the same color. It was simple and grand, and there were many formation patterns inscribed on it. In the middle of the square, a huge stone tablet stood tall and majestic. On one side of it were engraved the portraits of the previous sect masters, as well as their great achievements. The names of the disciples who had made great contributions to the Longevity sect were carved on one side. At the highest point of the stone tablet, there was a huge stone chair. It was high up in the field, overlooking the entire field. However, at this moment, the stone chair was empty. This was the position of Ming Rui, the leader of the Longevity sect. Zhang Xian scanned the square and looked around. Gradually, the square became taller and taller, forming a circular seating area. As a whole, it looked like an ancient colosseum. At this moment, there were already tens of thousands of disciples sitting cross-legged on these seats. The higher up the seats, the stronger their cultivation. In this place, age and seniority did not matter. Only strength mattered. However, the 8 great elders and the 4 guest elders' seats at the very top were all empty. However, the seats of the hall masters below them were already filled with experts. All of them were at the middle stage of the Jindan realm, and above. These hall masters had different auras. Some were as sinister as a poisonous snake, some were as majestic as a mountain, some were as sharp as a peerless heavenly sword, and some were as violent as fire and lightning. However, each of them was extraordinary. Not only could they dominate Earth, but they could also control a sect in the Heavenly Kingdom or Star World. Luo Mei's seat was even below the Hall Master's seat. It occupied a region. Jiang Tian, Luo Mei, and the others sat down peacefully. Although there were tens of thousands of people gathered in the square, it was silent at this moment. Other than the whimpering of the wind and the chirping of the spiritual birds in the clouds, there was no other sound. Suddenly, there was a burst of air-piercing sounds. Streaks of white light shot out of the palaces in the depths of the sect, like supersonic fighter jets flying across the sky from all directions. There were a total of 12 elders. Their eyes were extremely deep and old. They had all been possessed several times. No one knew how old they were. Shou Ruhai and Feng Jinshan were among them. They glanced at Jiang Tian and Luo Mei with resentful eyes, then sneered and looked away. Yes, they are all overlords at the late stage of the Golden Core stage, or even the peak of the perfected stage. Jiang Tian's eyes were full of coldness. Shou Ruhai and Feng Jinshan are obviously up to no good. Li Wuji next to him was even more frightened and trembling. The strength of the 12 elders was not to be underestimated. Today was bound to be a fierce battle. The sect master is here. Welcome, sect master. The next moment, silently, a graceful figure appeared and landed on the top of the giant stone tablet in the middle of the square, overlooking everyone. We respectfully welcome the sect master. May the sect master enjoy eternal blessings and live as long as heaven. Everyone bowed and some knelt on the ground, looking very humble. Even Feng Jinshan and Shou Ruhai didn't dare to be disrespectful. They bowed with respect and fear on their faces. Luo Mei didn't dare to look at her. She lowered her head and her body trembled slightly. She's only a step away from the nascent soul level. Jiang Tian's eyes widened. Being able to reach the peak stage of the Golden Core level in less than 500 years, she was certainly a peerless cultivator. However, Jiang Tian still didn't take her seriously. Ming Rui was a beautiful woman over the age of 30. Her beautiful eyes were deep and calm like a pool of water. Her nose was tall, and her small lips were plump and slightly thick. They were bright red like cherries, and she was extremely charming and gorgeous. She wore a phoenix coronet and her hair was tied up high, revealing her snow-white neck. Her skin was fair and smooth, her waist was slender and her legs were long. She was tall and straight. Although she was beautiful, she had a powerful aura that came from being in a high position for a long time. Her eyes were arrogant, and she looked down at everyone like a superior goddess. Tang Linglong had a stubborn aura that refused to admit defeat. Yi Karen had a heroic aura, Lady Wuyao had a charming aura, and Fairy Luo Mei had an otherworldly aura. All of them had their own strengths. They were all elite overlords, but there was no way they could compare with Ming Rui, the sect master of the Changshan sect. They were immediately suppressed by her domineering aura, like chickens meeting a phoenix. Don't be shy, everyone. 3 years have passed and the day of the blood competition has arrived. You all have the chance to challenge me. Maybe after the battle, I'll become a pile of bones and you'll be the supreme sect master of the Changshan sect. Ming Rui's eyes were cold as she opened her mouth. Her seductive voice was clearly heard by everyone present. Those who heard it were all shocked. That's right. The Changshan sect has always respected the 3 laws of Changshan. The strong win and the weak are ants. Now the blood competition of the entire sect begins. Register immediately and fight in pairs. A supreme elder with a white beard that reached his chest stood up and shouted loudly. He stomped his foot, and the essence chi of many hidden arrays on the square exploded. Golden Sanskrit names appeared in the air. The words were as big as a dipper, as if they were made of gold. Those were the names of all the elders, hall masters, ambassadors, core disciples, elite disciples, and inner sect disciples. The challenger only needed to put his name next to theirs and add the word kill to issue a challenge. The person being challenged had to accept the challenge. If they didn't accept the challenge, they would be at the mercy of the other party. The nameplates of both parties were connected to their origin souls. Once their divine souls were destroyed, the nameplates would shatter, and the other party would immediately replace them. Simple and straightforward. Courageous and resolute. Fierce and decisive. No room for negotiation. That was the style of the Changshan sect. Elite disciple Ji Wuming. I challenged the hall master of the Hall of Steel Veins. After a moment of silence, a disciple from the elite disciple seat below Jiang Tian stepped into the air and landed on the square. He shouted loudly and his essence chi exploded. His nameplate rose into the air and formed a bloody Sanskrit word kill in the air. It was next to the hall master of the Hall of Steel Veins. Ji Wuming, my good disciple. Not bad. The hall master of the Hall of Steel Veins was immediately filled with murderous intent. He flew over like lightning and said with a joyful face, "You are worthy of my 5 years of teaching you. You finally mustered the courage to challenge me. I'm very happy. Today no one can be merciful. Being merciless is the greatest respect you have, master." Ji Wuming's bloodshot eyes were icy cold. He was on full alert, his battle intent surging, and his murderous aura raging as he roared. Very good. The reputation of the Changshan sect is earned by fighting, not by talking. Ming Rui, who was sitting cross-legged on the monument, nodded in approval. Only by engaging in the cruelest internal fights and mercilessly eliminating the weak can the renewal be completed. Only then can the resources be allocated to the strong in the most reasonable and fastest way. Elite disciple Wan Feng challenges the hall master of the Skeleton Hall. Please enlighten me. Personal disciple Wan Hai challenges the hall master of the Duanren Hall. Please attack with all your strength. Inner disciple. Instantly, many disciples were greatly encouraged. Their spirits were lifted and their blood was boiling. They leaped out and took out their nameplates to create the word kill. They wanted to challenge the higher-ups and replace them. Among them, there were elite disciples challenging each other. There were also special envoys challenging special envoys challenging special envoys, and hall masters challenging elders. Roars and shouts of kill pierced the sky and shook the earth. In a moment, the sky was filled with the word kill. There were more than 1,000 of them. Blood chi filled the entire square and covered the sky. A surge of murderous intent and an unyielding fighting spirit filled the square. The violent fighting spirit made people's hair stand on end and their scalps tingle with fear. At the same time, they couldn't help but feel admiration. Chapter 1132. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of battles were decided in just a few minutes. Almost everyone who was challenged would choose to accept the challenge. This was because once one refused a challenge, not only would they be despised and spurned by their fellow disciples, they would also be casually dealt with by the challenger. The greatest possibility was that they would still not be able to escape death. Fairy Luo Mei was also challenged by 2 elite disciples. One of them was surprisingly a special envoy of the Cloud Mist Nation. He was her direct subordinate, and also her personal disciple. Yesterday, the 2 of them were still drinking and chatting merrily, but today, they were going to draw their swords and fight to the death. This disciple's name was Qi Bing. Recently, he had challenged many opponents in the sect, and was invincible. He had received a lot of nourishment, and had already stepped into the early stage of the Golden Elixir realm. His combat prowess was comparable to Fairy Luo Mei's. It was difficult to determine the outcome of their battle. Fellow Taoist Xingtu, if I fail, all of you will follow Qi Bing and take the test. I won't be able to help you after this. You'll have to play it by ear. Fairy Luo Mei's expression was calm, and her eyes were cold. She sent a message to Jiang Tian with her divine consciousness before she stepped into the battlefield without hesitation. Let the competition begin. Following the order of the white-bearded Great Elder, the battle instantly erupted. Immediately, many experts were heavily injured and died. This battle could be said to be brilliant, varied, and filled with danger. They fought to the point the earth shook, and it dazzled the eyes of all. This was a chaotic battle. Over 1,000 experts attacked in unison, and they sometimes flew through the sky and sometimes fell to the ground. They didn't establish a special battlefield for themselves. Blood splattered everywhere. Streaks of silver light, lightning, black water and white light intertwined, making Li Wuji and the others dizzy. Vast amounts of origin chi surged out like a tidal wave, and from time to time, there would be experts dying amidst miserable screams, turning into meat paste. Not only did the combatants have to be wary of the opponent's attacks, but they also had to take into account the impact caused by the other combatants' divine arts, constantly moving and dodging. Battle cries shook the heavens, and explosive shouts were like thunderclaps. The experts unleashed their divine abilities, and saber chi swept out in all directions. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, and flames burned the heavens. All sorts of strange phenomena and vital energy almost squeezed the square to the point of exploding. Severed limbs flew in all directions, and a rain of flesh rained down. The surging yuan chi was like 1,000 layers of waves. The violent waves carried a frightening aura. Sometimes they would explode together, pushing in all directions. Sometimes they would form deep whirlpools, swallowing everything around them. The combatants were like tiny little boats drifting in the stormy sea, seemingly powerless and weak. Some of the Foundation establishment cultivators were caught off guard by the unintentional impact of the Aura's core cultivators before they could even fight for a few rounds. Both of them were torn to pieces and blasted into minced meat. Golden Core experts would not hold back or have scruples just because there was a fellow disciple with a lower cultivation base beside them. Instead, they would unleash their full strength and not leave any leeway. They would often crush the fellow disciples with a lower cultivation base beside them. This was a blood-soaked scene, completely simulating a real-life contest. No, it should be called a fight. In the eyes of the Chongqing sect, fighting in the real world was not as simple as you and your opponent. You would often encounter all kinds of unexpected situations, such as passing experts or demon beasts, and the ever-changing environment. All of these would have an impact on the battle situation. This requires you to have the ability to adapt. You need to be good at using the external environment to attack or dodge. If you don't have this ability to adapt, you'll die. However, the disciples in the spectator stands would not be affected. Rays of light shot through the clouds and filled the sky. The array rumbled and a protective barrier was formed. The spiritual energy contained within it was vast and tough, blocking off the shockwaves. After killing their opponents, some contestants immediately withdrew from the competition. However, if an overlord challenged them, they would have to grit their teeth and walk out quickly. Some victors were covered in blood and bone-deep wounds, but they were still in high spirits. They took out their nameplates again, and continued to challenge more powerful overlords. Half an hour later, the battle was over. Blood was flowing everywhere on the square. There were piles of corpses and broken limbs everywhere. Remnants of divine powers and dharma forms exploded in the sky from time to time, filling the air with a pungent smell of blood. At least a few hundred elite disciples had died. Dozens of disciples had died in the past. Even many of the hall masters had fallen, and one of the elders had been replaced by another expert. Fairy Luo Mei was quite lucky. She killed 2 challengers and returned to her place, covered in blood and panting. Does anyone else want to challenge me? The white-bearded Grand Supreme Elder looked around with a dignified gaze and shouted loudly, "Don't worry. If an overlord wants to challenge you, take out your nameplates immediately. I'll give you 10 seconds to consider." The entire place was dead silent. Only heavy breathing could be heard. The injured overlords immediately took pills to heal their injuries in preparation for another challenge. After 10 seconds, no one issued another challenge. At this moment, a new balance was reached and new positions were created. The challenges for those below the sect master level are over. Congratulations to the victors for advancing further. At this moment, the white-bearded Grand Elder announced. Then his expression became solemn as he said loudly, "All disciples of the sect, send our condolences to those who died in battle, whether they were challenged or challenged. We also offer our highest respect. He bowed deeply with reverence in his eyes. Ming Rui also stood up and bowed meticulously. Her eyes were compassionate and reverent as she muttered prayers. The entire place was silent. Everyone's expression was solemn as they bowed solemnly. Some disciples even knelt on the ground with tears in their eyes. However, they gritted their teeth to prevent themselves from crying. The Grand Elder's voice was filled with reverence as he said, "Their fighting spirit will be immortal. Their spirit of sacrifice will be immortal." From then on, thousands of years ago, the seniors and sages who fought for the Chongqing sect and cultivated diligently to reach the peak of cultivation fearlessly and bravely fought for their lives will be immortal. As his blessing and announcement came to an end, amidst the silence, all around the square, the trumpets of elephants and the horns of oxen sounded. The sound was deep, low, and sorrowful. The chanting of the Rebirth Sutra, which was used to ferry the souls of the dead, resounded in all directions like an immortal chanting. This kind of sound was very complicated. Those who heard it felt a mixture of sorrow and heroism in their hearts, making them cry uncontrollably. They're simply courting death. Their fellow disciples are killing each other and causing trouble. It's inhumane. It's too terrifying. At least half of the overlords have died. The casualty rate is too high. They're still fighting their own people. Such a battle left Li Wuji and the others dumbfounded and terrified. The martial demon lady's face turned pale as she trembled. Even though Yi Karen respected such a system before, he couldn't help but feel a little confused at this moment. In order to reach the peak of cultivation, was it worth it to kill one's fellow disciples? Not to mention the people who died in the battle. Was it worth it for the sect to suffer such heavy losses? Fairy Luomei bowed and sat down. She said softly, "There are no casualties. No casualties at all." "What do you mean? So many people have died. How can you say there are no casualties?" Yi Karen couldn't believe it. The dead will become the food of the victor. Through the blood and flesh altar or the secret art blood-body exchanging mystic art, the dead's cultivation, Qi, blood and spirit will be converted and poured into the victor's body for him to absorb and refine to increase his cultivation. Fairy Luomei said softly. Yi Karen and the others turned their heads and noticed. On the square, every corpse and every broken limb was enshrouded in scripture runes. Scriptures flickered and golden light filled the air. It was so condensed that it seemed material, forming barriers of different sizes. This shield seemed to be stabilizing the remaining essence, qi, and spirit of their flesh and blood, so that they wouldn't be destroyed. On the many golden scripture shields, there were the names of the dead and the names of the people who killed them. You want to eat them? Have you eaten before? Fairy Luomei, isn't that too cruel? Tang Linglong, Lady Wu, and the others suddenly understood and couldn't help but feel a chill down their spines. They almost screamed. More or less. To be precise, it should be absorption. Fairy Luomei's beautiful eyes were filled with fanatical greed and anticipation. Before this, I stood aloof from worldly affairs and had never eaten flesh and blood. This is the first time. It should be very beneficial to my cultivation. But what's so cruel about this? They're already dead. How can we waste such good flesh and cultivation? Chapter 1133. You're a demoness. Cannibalism is worse than pigs and dogs. Li Wuji blew his beard and glared angrily, standing on the moral high ground. Okay, let's wait and see. Jiang Tian said lightly. The customs and culture of burial were different for every race, so they should be respected. There was no difference between them. The Han people advocated burial. The Tibetan area practiced sky burial and pagoda burial. Sky burial was to let vultures eat the corpses. India liked cremation, and it was done in the open. Thailand liked to pour the ashes of the dead into the river. It was said that there were some primitive tribes in the jungles of Africa who practiced cannibalism. They ate the flesh of their ancestors and shared it. It was believed that the ancestors' souls could accompany and protect them. It was the deepest memory of their ancestors. If you mocked others for their barbarism and backwardness, others would think that you were rebellious. In the end, it was just a custom. Moral criticism was meaningless, but from the perspective of pros and cons, Cannibalism was more harmful than beneficial. In the 1950s, the Kuru disease broke out in a Fulnar tribe in Papua New Guinea. Most of the victims were women and children who handled the corpses and ate the brains. The patient's cerebellum was out of balance, and the whole body was paralyzed. They laughed stiffly and eventually died of hunger and malnutrition because they couldn't swallow. Kuru disease could not be cured until the local government strictly prohibited cannibalism, and the epidemic situation improved. The disease caused by cannibalism was both an infectious and hereditary disease. It was more serious than inbreeding. Some scholars thought that the outbreaks of SARS, mad cow disease, bird flu, and other infectious diseases in this century could be explained from this perspective. However, the Changshan sect used flesh and blood altars to absorb the energy of the dead. It was not only a funeral ceremony, but also a method to pass on cultivation techniques. It could be said that the Changshan sect's master created this method and combined it with the 3 laws of Changshan. It looked perfect. The 3 laws of Changshan could simulate real battles and improve the cultivation of disciples to the limit. However, the casualty rate was too high. No major sect could withstand this kind of internal friction. However, the flesh and blood altars and the blood-body exchanging mystic art were like Buddhism's enlightenment. They solved the problem of serious casualties to a certain extent. As long as they continued to absorb the disciples at the bottom, they would form a pyramid-shaped advancement level and achieve the ultimate sublimation of the strongest. In theory, they could even increase their cultivation without limit. But in fact, such techniques were very common in the universe. Most of them were only practiced by primitive races. They were crude and had many drawbacks. Normally, even if a devourer could refine blood essence, they would not be able to completely subdue and refine the resentment, obsession, and hatred of the dead. These were all living souls. If this went on for a long time, his divine sense would be disturbed, and he would definitely go berserk, falling into the demonic path. A drop in his cultivation would be considered light, but it could even be destroyed in an instant, and he would perish. Jiang Tian frowned and asked, "By the way, we saw tens of thousands of living people in the camp when we went up the mountain. Are they also blood food?" "That's right." Fairy Luo Mei nodded. An unnatural look flashed across her face as she said, "The Changshan sect believes that the fastest way to improve oneself is in a battle. It is also the best time to absorb and refine the energy. Therefore, in the process of the elders challenging the sect leader, they will devour living blood to nourish themselves to the extreme. Living blood food is compared to dead blood food. Living blood food is believed to be the fastest way to improve one's cultivation. Did you catch these blood food? Are there any Yanhuang tribesmen among them?" Tang Linglong asked with a murderous look in her eyes. "No. They are all willing. They are the most devout and fanatical followers of the Changshan sect," Fairy Luo Mei explained. "There are no Yanhuang tribesmen among them. The Yanhuang tribesmen are yellow grains. They are not qualified to be blood food. Everyone says that the Changshan sect leader has a chance to reach the nascent soul realm through this large-scale devouring of living blood food." Enough! Tang Linglong only felt her head buzzing, and her mind was greatly shaken. This was too cruel. It was inhumane. Evil. Too evil. Yi Karen and Lady Wu could not take it anymore. This was too scary. Devouring living people was disgusting and hair-raising. Fortunately, there are no Yanhuang tribesmen among them. Most of them are ancient Tianju. The Changshan sect leader and many elders probably think that the flesh of the Yanhuang tribesmen is not enough for them. At this time, Jiang Tian also frowned. His eyes were cold and murderous. At this time, Jiang Tian understood completely. The Changshan sect's martial arts had 3 levels. Possession was the most basic. There was also the immortality arts to gather and graft strong body parts. The most advanced was undoubtedly the bloodbath body exchanging mystic art. Only the sect leader, elders, and some hall masters were qualified to cultivate it. Jiang Tian had lived 2 lives and had killed many people. He had seen and experienced all kinds of inhumane and bloody things. However, he didn't like consuming the life essence and blood of living people as fodder to raise his cultivation base. Winners, please come up to the stage and devour the blood food. Don't mix up your food and fight again. At this time, the white-bearded Grand Elder smiled and waved his hand casually. Instantly, altars made of white bones flew to the square. There were hundreds of them, and they were scattered all over the place. Haha, I killed a hall master. His flesh and soul are very strong. It will definitely help me reach the next level. Feast. The triennial feast of flesh and blood has finally begun. Finally, I can enjoy their flesh and blood. Below the stage, there were excited cheers. The winners were like hungry ghosts, salivating and drooling as they flew to their own altars. Fairy Luo Mei also landed on an altar. Sai Luo Sambao killed an elite disciple this time. I'm afraid he will break through to the early Jindan realm. I can't catch up with him anymore. Sai, if I want to enjoy this feast, I have to wait another 3 years. I must cultivate hard. After 3 years, I must kill a few experts. There will be positions, resources, and blood food to eat. Sai, I am too far behind. Many fellow cultivators have already left me far behind. What should I do? The cultivators who did not participate in the battle showed deep envy, respect, yearning, and regret. They had mixed feelings. Some hated themselves for not having the courage to do so. They could not help but feel regretful. Some clenched their fists and secretly made up their minds. Their eyes were cold as they looked for a suitable opponent for the next battle. Some were extremely anxious, discouraged, and sighed. There were too many experts this time, and they felt the deep gap between them. Everyone, please enjoy the fruits of your victory. Please enjoy the delicious flesh and blood. Let's strengthen your soul and body. Under the expectant gazes of the crowd, the sect master of the Changshan sect, Mingrui, stood up and opened her arms, shouting loudly. A gorgeous smile appeared on her snow-white face. She was so charming that it made one's heart itch and become restless. It was also a little creepy. Suddenly, the style of the music in the square changed. The zither and the zither played in harmony, and the music and song were lively. The rhythm was cheerful, bright, exciting, high-spirited, and joyous as if it was the new year. There were also singers and dancers dancing in the air. Their long sleeves waved and their movements were graceful. Their steps were agile. They twisted their waists and buttocks. Their stomachs shook, and they spun and jumped. They were full of vitality and even sexy. Around the dancers and singers, flowers bloomed and bloomed, adding to the joyful atmosphere and diluting the terrifying and bloody aura. At this moment, the altars made of white bones shone brightly, forming many light shields that enveloped the victors sitting on them. The victors seemed to be possessed by gods. There were runes circulating on the surface of their bodies, and they were extremely mysterious. At the same time, a surging suction force like a black hole was formed, absorbing the flesh, essence, energy, and even the divine soul of the corpses. The Reincarnation Sutra could release the souls of the dead. It could destroy the consciousness to the greatest extent and purify it into pure mental energy to nourish and strengthen the divine soul of the victors. The corpses, the limbs and blood wriggled slightly under the power of the flesh altars. Their skin withered at a visible speed and their flesh dried up, quickly turning into dried corpses. Streams of pure blood essence and vital qi poured into their bodies, and the auras of the victors, including Fairy Luo Mei, rose steadily. They were like dragons rising into the sky, and their cultivation levels rose in a short period of time, as if there was no end to it. Bang, bang, bang. Thunder-like sounds came from their bodies. They broke through many obstacles and restrictions, and their cultivation rose sharply. Their auras became longer, their minds became more tenacious, their bodies became stronger, their faces glowed and their vitality surged. There were even people who jumped several levels, from the foundation establishment level to the 3rd level of the golden core level. Awesome! It's too awesome! I broke through 3 levels in a row, 1,000 miles in a day. It's comparable to 100 years of hard work. Someone laughed loudly and beat his chest with his fists. He was so happy that tears flowed down his face. Haha! I broke through. I finally broke through. The power of flesh and blood is strong. My Changshan sect is strong. Immortality. I want immortality. Some people were crying tears of joy, shouting to the heavens and earth, as if they had gone mad. Didn't I devour all the flesh and blood? Why did I only break through 1 level? There was a crazy look in the eyes of an expert. He was angry and dissatisfied. His essence chi burst out and rolled up the corpses under the altar. He opened his mouth and chewed on the bones of the dried corpses. There were crunching sounds, cracking sounds, chewing sounds. For a moment, the huge square was in chaos. It was as if a group of demons were dancing. It looked creepy and cold. Even if it was for cultivation, even if they still had some rationality left, even if it was their custom, they were still eating the corpses of their own kind. Yi Karen's stomach turned sour as he vomited. On his pale face, cold sweat rolled down like a curtain of rain. Tang Linglong gritted her teeth and said viciously, "They all deserve to die. A group of evil people. I'll kill them all later, and leave no one alive." Chapter 1134. Following the Supreme Elder's command, the blood feast came to an end. Everyone left the square reluctantly. Some servant disciples went forward and took off the clothes that they had used to collect the corpses. Many of the corpses had been completely destroyed, and could only be used as cenotaphs. Fairy Luo may return to her seat. Her face was glowing and her cultivation had also skyrocketed. She had broken through from the 3rd level of the Golden Core level to the 5th level, and was about to enter the peak stage of the Golden Core level. Elders, you have worked hard to kill the enemies for the Changshan sect. Today is the day you challenge the sect master, and give birth to a new sect master. The Grand Elder's voice was as loud as a bell, and everyone present was shocked. I hope you won't show any mercy. Be fearless and use your power to the highest level to kill the old sect master and replace him. All right. Next, elders, please challenge me. Suddenly, the sect leader opened her mouth. Her voice was so charming that it made people feel weak all over. Of course, anyone in the sect has the chance to challenge me. Whoever wins and kills me will be the sect master of the Changshan sect. She was majestic and awe-inspiring, like a high and mighty empress overlooking her subjects. Her eyes were bright, sharp, firm, and resolute. She said coldly, I've been preparing for this battle for 3 years. My memorial tablet has already been placed in the morning hall of the sect. My cenotaph has already been placed in the sect's cemetery. Her pretty face was full of resoluteness as she coldly said. She said coldly, when I came out of seclusion, my family had already given me a toast, 3 sacrifices, paper money and incense. With the determination to die, I accept everyone's challenge. With a gratified and joyful attitude, I hope that there will be experts who can surpass me. I'm ready to be smashed to pieces to welcome the arrival of the new sect master. Everyone was silent. After a long while, the hearts of the tens of thousands of people present trembled slightly. They were shocked by the domineering aura of the sect master. Let's fight. An elder with a long beard and a red face rose to the sky. He walked in the air step by step and said coldly, I'm willing to challenge the sect master and offer my resources to the sect master. It was also through this battle that I was able to rise to a higher level and pursue the supreme immortal Tao. If I lose, I also hope that sect master won't show any mercy. You can use my flesh, blood, and spirit as nourishment, and enjoy to your heart's content to push you to the supreme realm. An expert with a perfect gold core realm, especially one with a strong physical body, is extremely rare. Jiang Tian's pupils shrank. As you wish. The patriarch of the longevity sect, Ming Rui, sneered. He shook his arms and swooped down from the steel like a bird, immediately clashing with the elder. This elder's body was incomparably strong, and he walked the path of close-quarters combat techniques. He manifested numerous mountain avatars. His largest mountain was only as tall as a person, but it was exceptionally heavy. When everyone saw this, they were all shocked. These were the celestial mountains being refined into vital qi and absorbed into his dantian. The mountain didn't look big, but its mass was extremely terrifying. It was comparable to 100 feet tall mountain, and the pressure it exerted was enormous. An early-stage golden core overlord would be crushed and killed on the spot. This elder had the strength to pick up a mountain, and his aura was unparalleled. When he punched out, a stone peak flew over. When he punched down, a towering and majestic mountain peak came crashing down. When he kicked out, a strange mountain peak protruded out. It was an aura as magnificent as the mountains and rivers. The patriarch of the longevity sect, Mingrui, looked solemn. She didn't use any divine powers. She only used her palms and fists to attack. However, she didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. She shattered the mountain avatars again and again. Even though the vital chi exploded within a few meters of the two of them, it annihilated the air. It was pitch black, distorted and blurry. The vital chi within a 10-kilometer radius was crazily poured in like a river, and the wind was howling. Everyone in the spectator stands felt a huge suction force. They almost flew out, and were about to fall apart. Even the protective light shields on the spectators' seats caved in, as if they were about to collapse. Activate the second protective shield on the audience seats. The white-bearded Great Supreme Elder's clothes were pulled straight by the violent suction force, and the skin on his face was like billowing waves. His feet had already broken the ground, and he couldn't help but be frightened as he shouted loudly like a great bell. The battle seemed peaceful, but it was actually extremely dangerous. He was a peak-stage Golden Core cultivator, and even he was almost pulled in. If he were a normal disciple, he would have been torn to pieces. Suddenly, the two people in the field collided violently, producing a world-shaking explosion. Smoke and dust billowed and the sky trembled. Nothing could be seen clearly. The two people separated and rushed out of the distorted space and smoke. Everyone finally saw clearly. There was a bloody hole in the elder's chest, and a golden core covered in blood appeared in Mingrui's hand. The elder lost! Everyone exclaimed and was dumbfounded. Although the elder had lost his golden core, and his cultivation was completely destroyed, he was still strong and did not die immediately. Sect Master, your cultivation is powerful. You're really a rare cultivation genius. You'll definitely bring our sect to greater heights and surpass Golden Rock Temple. The elder's face was pale, but his smile was gratified and respectful, as if he was facing death with equanimity. I've lost, but you haven't reached the limit yet. It's not the best time to devour you. I'll use a secret technique to preserve my body and essence, so that you can devour me when the time is right. The elder smiled peacefully and slowly landed on the ground. He sat cross-legged on the ground like an old monk meditating. He used a cultivation technique to preserve his essence and vitality, so that the sect master could devour him at the best time. Elder! Many people exclaimed, their eyes filled with pity and admiration. The elder's body was shattered, and half of his heart was shattered. He was in great pain, as if he was in purgatory. Thank you, Elder. Mingrui revealed a look of admiration. He used a secret technique and swallowed the golden core into his dantian, storing it without refining it. Then he raised his eyebrows and glanced at the elders. He said coldly, Elders, who wants to challenge me? Step forward. Sect Master, what you want to do the most is to destroy Golden Rock Temple on Thunder Mountain one day, and dominate this world. At this time, a bald elder sighed softly and stood up. He said, Do you know what the top secret technique of Golden Rock Temple is? So Master wants to teach me. Sect Master Mingrui bowed respectfully. He was serious and meticulous. Then his face turned cold and he said softly, Master, Golden Rock Temple has a lot of dharma and divine powers. As far as I know, the most powerful ones are the 5 Thunder Sky-Raising Bell, the Invincible Vajra, the Tathagata's Dashang Sutra, and the Thunderclap 9 Strikes. That's right. The bald elder had a merciful look on his face as he smiled. Sect Master, if you want to transcend this world, you have to reach the soul formation realm before you can enter the gate of creation, and enter the ancient path of the galaxy. The gate of creation that leads to the ancient path of the galaxy. Is there a transmission array here like the ruins of immortality? Jiang Tian was also shocked when he heard this. But the bald elder didn't say anything else. He changed the topic and sighed. But if you want to transcend the nascent soul level and reach the soul formation realm, it's a long road. It's not easy. Even if we use the secret method of reincarnation to extend our lives and accumulate experience, we won't be able to reach the soul formation realm. Yes, you and I both want to transcend this world. This world is really too small. It's so frustrating. Mingrui, the sect master of the Chongqing sect, murmured sadly, I want to see the outside world. Disciple wants to see the outside world. Even if I die when I go out, even if I'm crushed to pieces, I still want to see it. This world is too small. How big are you? Look at how pretentious you are. Under the stage, Lady Wu couldn't believe it and curled her lips. This place was more than 10 times bigger than Wuxia and Earth. It was full of spirit qi and spirit herbs. You still think it's too small? How big is your heart? No, this is their predicament, a real predicament. Everyone lives in a cage. However, Jiang Tian smiled softly, understanding in his heart. Chapter 1135. If a foundation establishment cultivator were to fly without rest, it would take several days to cross this continent. But for an early-stage golden core cultivator, it would only take a day. And for the sect master of the Changshan sect, who had reached the perfected golden core level and mastered many teleportation secret techniques, it would only take a few hours. Or even less. To her, this world was like a small city. No, it was just a small community. Thousands of years would confine a person to a small community. Time would be extremely long, space would be narrow, and life would be extremely boring. It was no different from being in jail. She would probably go crazy from holding it in. Crazy. The spirit qi in this world is still too thin, and the resources are too scarce. The bald elder sighed. In the thousands of years of recorded history, only 3 people reached the nascent soul level. None of them reached the nascent soul level, let alone the soul formation level. His face turned cold and he said solemnly, "The soul formation level is as difficult as ascending to the sky. If you want to reach the soul formation level, there's only one way. Gather the golden cores of 10,000 people and swallow them by force." His eyes were extremely firm as he said coldly, "You have to wipe out the fire worship sect, Golden Rock Temple, Hahuan sect, and Tingyu Tower. You need the blood of 10,000 or 100,000 foundation establishment cultivators." "I understand." Ming Rui nodded calmly. "Rui, even if you have to die, you have to poke a hole in the sky. Why do we, the ancient Indians, have to live in this dark world?" The bald elder called her by her name and said coldly, "When you reach the soul formation level, you'll be able to shake the gate of creation, tear open the sky and step on the ancient path of the stars to reach the outside world. If you have the chance, you'll create a passage and lead our descendants out to a wider world." "I won't forget this oath." Ming Rui's face was solemn. "Then let's fight." A trace of determination flashed across the bald elder's face as he said emotionally. The old man was a monk in Golden Rock Temple for 3 years and learned the 5 thunders heaven-shaking bell, combining thunder arts and fist arts. His figure moved and he threw out a punch. Suddenly, a sound like a huge bell rang out. Lightning as thick as an arm circled around his body and gushed out, forming a large lightning bell that vibrated along with his fist. "All right." Ming Rui bowed deeply and meticulously. By the time she raised her head, her face was already filled with killing intent. Her figure flashed forward, and she used the dipper step. She punched out with her fist, and her chi weapon condensed, breaking the lightning bell. The two immediately engaged in battle. The bald elder opened and closed. His fists and feet were incomparably ferocious and efficient. Any of his punches would cause a huge bell to vibrate like a blooming morning glory, blasting out with endless power. With a sweep of his palm, the golden bell would spin and roll out. With a punch, the lightning bell would descend from the sky, wanting to envelop Ming Rui. Each of his punches and kicks was like a thunderbolt, as heavy as a mountain. They were comparable to nuclear explosions, and had the power to contend against modern armies. Kill. Ming Rui didn't hold back in the slightest as well. She executed her divine abilities and techniques, causing her figure to be graceful like a dragon and graceful like a graceful swan. Her primordial chi burst out, and her long sword would sweep across the sky, and the wind from her fists would surge. She broke the bell again and again, causing earth-shattering explosions. In less than 10 minutes, the Changshan sect's hierarch, Ming Rui, swung her sword. Waves of blood gushed out as the bald elder's bald head flew up, and then fell with his body. His eyes were wide open, and his face was filled with surprise. He praised, Hierarch, your cultivation technique is almost at phenomenal success. Good sword technique, good sword technique. I'll take the golden core. The Changshin-sect's hierarch's eyes were cold and emotionless. He stabilized the corpse with his primordial chi, and took out the blood-stained golden core. The corpse fell to the ground. Take it, take it. Good sword technique. The bald elder praised repeatedly. Finally his head fell to the ground, splashing blood. He slowly closed his eyes, his expression peaceful. Feng Nuishan, Shou Rohai and the other guest elders didn't move. The remaining 6 elders stood up together. Hierarch, pick one. The leader was a skinny elder. He looked solemn, but there were flames dancing in his eyes. He was full of the passion of a martyr. Today, we are going to sacrifice ourselves and burn our cultivation bases to help the sect leader ascend to the heavens. Each of the 6 elders had learned something. They were very strict and powerful. They were all in the late Golden Core realm. There were even 2 in the 9th level of the Golden Core realm. If they went to Earth together and performed their divine powers, they would be able to dominate the entire world in less than a month. Let's fight together. Ming Rui raised her chin when she sensed the powerful auras. Not only was she not afraid at all, her aura rose steadily and shot into the sky. The ghastly and piercingly cold killing intent, the high and unyielding battle intent, and the vast and surging true essence imposing aura swept out in all directions like a tempestuous wave, and it suppressed the entire scene and caused one's heart to palpitate. After hearing what she said, everyone went silent. Everyone was dumbfounded, and their eyes almost popped out. The hierarch was also a peak stage golden core cultivator, but she was going to challenge 6 overlords at the same time. How was that different from asking for death? Only Jiang Tian's expression was calm, as he understood in his heart. The hierarch of the Changshin sect, Ming Rui, had a mid-grade golden core, and the elders who challenged her were all inferior-grade golden core cultivators. Even though they were at the same level, their power was still on the same level as hers. Nobody would be able to force out the potential of the hierarch of the Changshin sect, and let her reach the ultimate level in a battle. That way, Ming Rui wouldn't be able to take the opportunity to devour a lot of food and golden cores to reach the nascent soul level. Together? When the 6 elders heard this, they also looked at each other in shock. No one moved, nor did they say anything. Then, they all looked at the white-bearded great elder. The white-bearded great elder muttered to himself with his eyes closed. His fingers moved quickly as if he was calculating something. After a while, he opened his eyes and sighed. Let's fight together. This is our only chance. Yes. The 6 elders responded respectfully. Then they shot out at lightning speed and attacked the hierarch of the Changshin sect mercilessly. Bring the food here, the Grand Elder said and looked at a hall master who was in charge of logistics. Yes. The hall master lowered his head respectfully and passed down the order. Immediately, the food that had been waiting at the foot of the mountain was sent to the square by the overlords with divine powers and arrays. This great battle was simply earth-shattering. Flames pierced through the sky, sword light crisscrossed, fire phoenixes let out long cries, and giant dragons circled. Sometimes ice would seal the heaven and earth, and sometimes arrows would shoot out like a torrential downpour. Round after round of explosions erupted continuously, drowning the entire square, as if hell had descended. The level of the battle was too high that day. Overlords below the golden core level couldn't see their moves and figures at all. Streams of colorful air currents and light pillars shot up into the sky and down into the ground. They crisscrossed, collided, rubbed against each other, and exploded. If one were to forcibly watch it, they would immediately be shaken by the rapidly changing scenes, and their minds would be shaken, causing them to feel dizzy. Many people felt extremely uncomfortable. They opened their mouths and vomited. The hall masters immediately ordered them to close their eyes and not force themselves to watch. At this moment, even the Supreme Elder could not withstand the violent pressure. His face revealed a hint of terror as his figure flashed, and he escaped from the square. Waves after waves of terrifying shockwaves swept over like raging waves crashing onto the shore, destroying everything in their path and shaking the heavens and earth. The protective shield of the audience seats cracked a few times, and the violent shock waves immediately swept out, creating huge gullies on the ground. The disciples were blown off their feet and the earth shook. Boom, boom, boom. Many arrays were activated under the ground. Colorful light shields appeared one after another and covered the center of the battle. Even so, many early-stage Foundation establishment disciples couldn't withstand it. Their faces turned pale, and their bodies trembled violently. Some even passed out. Ming Rui, the sect master of the Changshan sect, was fighting against the 6 elders alone, but she wasn't at a disadvantage at all. Her graceful body had the power to destroy the world. Every move she made shook the earth and destroyed the dimension. Powerful. Too powerful. Ming Rui is really a talented person. From now on, I'll be her personal disciple. Crown Prince Jihan was dizzy. His face was full of admiration and yearning. He was extremely excited. He had always thought of himself as a genius, but after seeing Ming Rui, he realized that there was always someone better than him. Sect Master was indeed the Sect Master. Kill. Suddenly, Ming Rui raised her eyebrows and shouted. Her eyes were cold as if they were demonic. She stepped out. Flaming chains shot out from the void under her feet. They clanged and crossed the void, piercing toward the few people. Sect Master, you're still too weak. You shouldn't be so weak with your strength and cultivation base. An 8th-level Golden Core Elder shouted and punched with a divine power. Behind him, the avatar of a 1,000-hand demon formed. It was 100 feet tall and made of lava. Thousands of long arms with black smoke waved and grabbed the chains, tearing them to pieces. Sword slashing 1,000 mountains. Ming Rui, the sect master of the Changshan sect, looked calm. She spun around and waved her fingers. 1,000-meter sharp sword aura formed. It seemed to be able to sweep across the world and destroy the 1,000-hand demon. Gradually, the 6 elders' attacks became more and more intense. The sect master of the Changshan sect was at a disadvantage. If you can't form the nascent soul, what's the point of having you? Kill you all. An elder's beard and hair fluttered in the wind. He raised his hand and used his vast true energy to stabilize the sect master's body. Then he roared like rolling thunder. Kill. Another elder's eyes were filled with killing intent. He formed the image of a hurricane spirit, and countless black wind arrows shot toward Ming Rui. Chapter 1136. Poof poof poof. Suddenly, bloody holes appeared on Ming Rui's body and blood gushed out. That was the blood of a perfected Golden Core Overlord. A drop of it could kill a Foundation establishment cultivator, but she had lost so much blood. Some of the wounds were even terrifying. They went through her body and her translucent bones were exposed. Well, you've really made me angry. Ming Rui roared towards the sky, the veins on her jade-white neck clearly bulging. Her delicate shout was like tearing silk, piercing through the clouds and splitting the sky. She unleashed her essence chi and threw a punch. The air trembled and the wind from her fist broke the illusion of the hurricane divine spirit. Blood body exchanging divine art. The sect master of the Changshan sect's crown fell, and her hair fluttered like a waterfall. She shouted again with a cold face. Immediately, her dantian field was empty and pitch black. A vast hurricane was pouring into her empty dantian. This hurricane simply had the power to destroy the heavens and the earth. The sky was pitch black and gloomy. Dark clouds covered the sky and rolled about incessantly. The hurricane quickly enveloped the people standing around the square. Beads of blood began to ooze out of the blood food, like beads of sweat. On the other hand, their countenances gradually turned pale while their skin withered and shriveled, and their expressions were hideous and painful. They grimaced in pain while their entire bodies trembled, and they seemed to be enduring extraordinary pain. However, they didn't resist at all. Instead, they formed a strange hand seal and murmured, "What joy is there in life? What pain is there in death? Gather my broken body and let my blood flow. Sublimate my life and become immortal. Be fearless, and live forever." Blood filled the sky and extended to the sky. Many small streams quickly gathered into a stream, which then became a flood. In the blink of an eye, the blood surged towards the sect master of the Changshan sect like a red river. In a blink, all the blood of 10,000 people was sucked out. Those people immediately turned into dried corpses and fell to the ground. But even before they died, they still maintained a peaceful and even joyful expression, as if dying like this was a kind of fortune and blessing. They were even laughing when they died. Lunatics. Lunatics. The power of faith is really terrifying. Seeing this, Lady Wu Yikaran and Tang Linglong were shocked and could not believe it. The Changshan sect has absorbed many doctrines. The doctrine of reincarnation is the core of the Changshan sect, and it is also the most deeply rooted in the hearts of the believers. Fairy Luo Mei explained, "All the hardships in this life are to atone for the sins of my previous life. The more hardships I endure in this life, the more blessings I will receive in my next life." They care about the past and the next life, but they pay the least attention to reality and the present. They even think that the more miserable the present is, the happier the next life will be. Therefore, many people don't do anything productive and only indulge in ascetic practice. Then won't this civilization collapse? Even a cultivator needs the support of a secular civilization. Tang Linglong frowned. Cultivation here has reached the end of the road. The resources and the potential of the cultivation arts have been exploited to the limit, but it's impossible to form the nascent soul, let alone reach the soul formation stage. Nobody can transcend this world. As time went by, the leaders of the longevity denomination fell into despair. After various experiments, they believed that the method of devouring blood essence could help them break through the barrier. Fairy Luo Mei explained, "In the sky, the blood wrapped around the sect master of the longevity denomination like silk. She stood in the air, and her wounds healed at a visible speed. Her skin became smoother, redder and more beautiful. Her energy also rose. When the blood flow was completely absorbed by her, her aura had already reached an unimaginable height. She used her cultivation technique. Rumble. She raised her eyebrows and threw a punch. Suddenly, true essence exploded, sending one of the elders flying. His body exploded, and his golden core flew out. She's really using the flesh of living people as resources to increase her cultivation. I can't believe there's such an evil cultivation art in the world." Li Wuji's eyes were opened. Yi Karen and the martial demon lady's expressions changed drastically. They were shocked and couldn't believe it. They could clearly feel that the sect master of the longevity denomination's strength and energy had reached a new level. Her energy seemed to be able to crush this continent. Blood-body transformation. Blood-body transformation. This is blood-body transformation. Born from blood, changing the physique, condensing the divine embryo, supreme divine ability. It feels great to have power. At this moment, Ming Rui, the sect leader of the longevity sect, exuded a strong demonic aura. His eyes were fierce and cold as he roared at the sky. It was as if tens of thousands of women were roaring at the same time. She seemed to have gone crazy. She used a few cultivation arts, and an enormous devouring force was formed. Boom, boom. The golden cores of the three elders who had died shattered, and turned into pure energy that flowed into her dark dantian. Their blood was also absorbed. Kill. The woman's energy surged again. Her murderous aura surged into the sky. She was as graceful as a startled swan. She quickly rushed into the group of remaining elders, and began a massacre. Every punch and kick seemed to be able to destroy the world. Only the sound of explosions could be heard incessantly. The remaining elders exploded one after another. None of them were able to withstand a single blow. At this moment, her strength had already suppressed all golden core cultivators. She killed almost one person with each step. Every time she attacked, an elder would die and their golden cores would be snatched away. Ming Rui sublimated to the extreme. As she fought, she continuously used cultivation arts to devour the golden cores of the dead elders. She didn't even let go of their remnant souls to strengthen her mental power. After 7 flicks of the fingers, she devoured another 30,000 people. After 8 flicks of the fingers, she killed 2 9th-level golden core elders on the spot and devoured their golden cores, blood essence and divine souls. In the sky, rivers of blood flowed, each of which was a few thousand meters long. They wriggled and rolled endlessly. Dense blood chi soared into the sky like smoke and mist. It even covered the sun. Tens of thousands of corpses were floating around the square. They were all skin and bones, like dried corpses. It was a tragic scene. Blood chi surged and a cold wind blew. There seemed to be ghosts crying and wailing, making the place look like hell. Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. It had never happened before that a sect master had defeated all 8 sect elders in a one-on-one battle. Ming Rui devoured the blood essence of many golden cores and tens of thousands of people. She would probably reach the nascent soul level or even higher. No one in the Changshan sect has this kind of combat power in the 5,000 years of its establishment and the 500 years of its prosperity. Many hall masters and disciples were deeply shocked. Crown Prince Jihan was so excited that his body trembled as if he had seen a true god. Even the Supreme Elder was moved and shocked. His expression of gratification and admiration was extremely strong. This woman was bathed in a sea of blood. Her eyes were slightly closed as she kept devouring. Her dantian became more and more full. As she absorbed the blood essence, Ming Rui's cultivation kept rising. Her body shook and her dantian kept rumbling. Vast true essence surged. Bang, bang, bang. The violent chi and blood continuously broke through many shackles, forming a huge chi pillar and cyclone that was more than 3,000 meters tall and hundreds of meters wide. An incomparably vast aura spread out, suppressing everyone until their bones creaked and their hearts almost jumped out of their throats. They couldn't bear it anymore. Good. Our sect master has formed a superior grade golden core and reached the nascent soul level. This is the fortune of the Changshan sect. This is the fortune of the North region. The white-bearded Grand Elder checked with his immortal will and calculated the woman's cultivation level. Suddenly, his face changed and he was so excited that his body trembled and tears rolled down his cheeks. A superior grade golden core would not only make a cultivator's combat power stronger than other cultivators, but it would also affect their cultivation progress and greatly increase their chances of breaking through to the nascent soul level, or even the soul formation level. For example, a golden core was like the engine of a cultivator's power, a superior grade golden core was like the engine of a supercar, and a middle grade golden core was like the engine of a farm tricycle. Of course, a superior grade golden core was not the most powerful. There were even rarer golden cores above it. Supreme grade, sacred grade and deity grade golden cores. Sacred grade golden cores were already very rare. Once refined, one could control an unparalleled sect in the central galaxy deep in the universe. As for the immortal grade golden core, it was a legendary existence. It was said that in the cultivation world, in the vast universe, there might not even be one in thousands or even tens of thousands of years. Forming the nascent soul was the intermediate state between the golden core level and the nascent soul level. The transformation of the golden core into the embryonic form of the nascent soul level was also an important step. Then, she was only one step away from entering the real nascent soul level. The only thing left was time and resources. Even though there was still a huge gap between the nascent soul level and the soul formation level. But Ming Rui was able to take that crucial step, which made him see the dawn of victory. There was hope for him to tear open the gate of creation and break free from the prison of the world. After that, there was an uproar below the stage. Tens of thousands of people were shocked. It was as if cold water had been added to a pot of hot oil. Chapter 1137. May the sect master live for 10,000 years and enjoy eternal happiness. Congratulations to the sect master for forming a superior grade golden core and entering the nascent soul level. From now on, you will break free from the shackles and surpass this world. Countless hall masters and disciples knelt on the ground and worshipped her with reverence in their eyes, as if they were facing a true god. When the last drop of essence blood was absorbed, the murderous and ferocious look on the woman's face also faded away. Her skin had become as white as jade, and her temperament had become ethereal and otherworldly, but there was an additional sense of beauty. From the outside, this woman's body did not seem to have changed at all. It was still as graceful and exquisite as before. However, everyone felt that there was a primordial divine beast that could destroy this world lying dormant inside. It wasn't an illusion. It was the result of the increase of her level. At this time, she had already used a secret art to refine the golden cores of the 8 elders and the essence blood of tens of thousands of people. Using them as resources, she had greatly improved the quality of her golden core and her cultivation level. Legend had it that a nascent soul-level cultivator with a superior-grade golden core was as powerful as a first-level nascent soul-level overlord. It wasn't boasting when they announced that the Changshan sect had a nascent soul-level overlord. It's the first time in 5,000 years that the Changshan sect has a nascent soul-level overlord. Someone exclaimed and trembled with tears in his eyes. The senior members of the Changshan sect had reached a consensus. Only by using the flesh and blood altar as resources could one person break free from the shackles of this world and step onto the ancient path of the stars to enter a new world. Many believers competed fairly regardless of their background, cultivation arts and status. The strong ones ascended to the sky and the weak ones died and became flesh and blood resources. The flesh and blood of tens of thousands of people were given to one person. It was a tragic sacrifice. Her attitude was resolute and resolute. She had a demeanor that said that she would only survive if she didn't go crazy. A nascent soul-level overlord. Our sect master is invincible. There's no one stronger than you. Only this mountain is taller. Our sect master is invincible. Long live Master Ming Rui. The Crown Prince of Jihan was extremely excited. He waved his arms and shouted hysterically. Our sect master is invincible in the world. Tears streamed down the faces of countless people in the crowd as they prostrated themselves in worship. Their eyes were filled with extreme fanaticism as if they had gone mad. Sect Master, you are indeed worthy of being the most talented and bold sect master since the founding of our sect 5,000 years ago. You have suppressed the world and illuminated the ages. The white-bearded Grand Supreme Elder's eyes were fixed on the longevity sect master, as he made the most colorful comment. The patriarch of the longevity sect, Ming Rui, also wore a proud and joyful expression. Her back was ramrod straight, and she stood proudly in the air like a goddess, enjoying the worship of tens of thousands of believers. At the same time, with a few flicks of the Supreme Elder's fingers, the array was activated. One after another, flashing nameplates appeared in the air, constantly flying and assembling. Immediately, new elders and hall masters were created according to their combat strength. In the blink of an eye, they completed a replacement that was especially troublesome for other sects. But at this moment, a faint, slightly mocking voice echoed throughout the hall. You're just a nascent soul cultivator with a high-grade golden core. How dare you claim to be invincible? You're really a frog at the bottom of a well. You're so short-sighted, but you're so arrogant. Jiang Tian's voice wasn't loud, but he had used a secret art. His mighty voice sounded like the sound of the Tao, suppressing all the other noises. Immediately, the entire hall went silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it and thought they were hallucinating. The originally noisy noise seemed to have been absorbed by an invisible sponge in a blink of an eye. The disciples, hall masters, and elders all stood there in a daze, as if they were made of clay or wood carvings. Only a still image was left on the scene. Who is it? Who dares to offend the sect master? How dare he? A dark-faced hall master looked at Fan Luomei's seat angrily. His eyes were like lightning. How dare he provoke the sect master when he has just broken through and his cultivation art is at its peak? Does he want to die? The Crown Prince of Extreme Frost and the other 3 personal disciple candidates looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Then they gloated. I've got something on you. The Prince of Jihan was very excited. He immediately jumped up and pointed at Jiang Tian, gritting his teeth. Sect Master, this person is called Star Butcher. He's from the Yin Huang tribe. He has been disrespectful to the sect master many times. You should expel him from the sect. No, you should kill him on the spot. Seeing Ming Rui's sharp eyes looking over, Fan Luomei immediately lowered her head. Her face was pale, and she avoided her gaze. Her heart was in her mouth, and she was so frightened that she was trembling. You're crazy, Star Butcher. You're just a new disciple. How dare you offend the sect master? Mao Billion scolded in a low voice. She wailed in her heart. It's over. It's over. This person didn't know what was good for him. He provoked the sect master, and would definitely incur the wrath of the sect master, Fairy Luome, and she would be implicated. She might not even be able to keep her position as an outer sect disciple. Didn't my sect encourage challenges? Jiang Tian stood up slowly and said, anyone can challenge the sect master. Anyone can challenge the sect leader. Once they kill the sect leader, they can replace him. Why can't I? The 3 laws of longevity. That's the ancient way. The Grand Elder scrutinized Jiang Tian, and a look of disdain appeared in his eyes. A Foundation establishment brat dared to challenge the sect master. He was undoubtedly courting death. He cherished Jiang Tian as a talent. He shook his head and sighed. But you don't know. The rules have changed over the years. No hall master or inner sect disciple has succeeded in challenging the sect master. The difference is too great, and the losses are too great. He swung his sleeves and made the final decision. So you'd better not mess around. Save your strength. After 100 years, you might still have a chance. Star Butcher, if you want to challenge the sect master, you have to defeat a hall master first, and then defeat me, the guest elder. Come on. I believe you have the strength. Shouruhai sneered. Feng Doshan's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he sneered maliciously. Originally, because Jiang Tian's position was too low, they didn't have the chance to attack Jiang Tian. They were scratching their hearts, but there was nothing they could do. But now, this Star Butcher was courting death. A Yanhuang tribe member is like an ant. He's not qualified to join our longevity sect. The black-faced hall master had just returned from afar, and didn't know about Jiang Tian's valiant battle record. His face was filled with disdain, and then he scolded sternly. Luome, how do you choose disciples? Longzhe, how do your guards check? Do you think the sect rules are a blank piece of paper? Get him out of here immediately. Yes, Hall Master Meng. Longzhe was so scared that he was trembling. He brought a pair of Foundation establishment stage guards and approached Jiang Tian. He kept winking at Jiang Tian and Fan Luome and scolded loudly, Star Butcher, get out now. He had good intentions. Jiang Tian's identity as a Yanhuang tribe member had been exposed. Not killing Jiang Tian was already the longevity sect's mercy. Noisy. Hall Master Meng, is it? You're like an ant. I'm here to kill you. Jiang Tian pointed at the black-faced hall master and leaped out. His eyes were indifferent. And then I'll kill a few new elders. In your opinion, I'm qualified to challenge the sect leader, right? What did you say? Hall Master Meng was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. In his eyes, the Yanhuang tribe members were like weak insects. They couldn't withstand a single blow, and didn't have any legacy. In any case, he was a dignified hall master of the Chongqing sect. Even the emperor of a country would have to give him some face. But now he was being ridiculed by Jiang Tian. How could he bear it? Have the Yanhuang tribe members always been so arrogant? You're just at the middle Foundation establishment stage, and you want to challenge the Golden Core Hall Master? Dream on. You're asking for death. There are no experts in the Yanhuang tribe. Perhaps he has never seen the power of a real Golden Core expert. As the saying goes, a frog at the bottom of a well can't talk about the sea. That's not right. He also saw Hall Master Meng attack. Hall Master Meng is a real Golden Core expert. The longevity sect was too big. There were 100,000 inner and outer sect disciples, and many had never heard of the name Star Butcher. They didn't know Jiang Tian's strength. Seeing Jiang Tian's arrogant words, they thought that Jiang Tian was crazy and unreasonable. Ignorant brat, full of arrogance. Let's see how arrogant you can be after I crush you with my foot. Hall Master Meng's eyes were arrogant and his face was cold. He soared into the sky and stomped down on Jiang Tian. He had the cultivation of a late Golden Core expert, and was even stronger than Fairy Luome. His move was earth-shattering. Rumble. Vital energy erupted from his right foot, and transformed into a 100-meter-long foot that was as huge as a ship. It descended from the sky. The huge foot covered the sky, and caused the ground of the square to tremble. It seemed like it could not only crush Jiang Tian but also crush a mountain. Violent airflow swept across, and even the protective light shield of the audience was rippling violently. It seemed like it was about to be torn into pieces. Just as the foot was about to step on Jiang Tian's head, Li Wuji and the others were shocked and screamed. Suddenly, a flaming vital energy exploded under Hall Master Meng's foot like a volcanic eruption. This energy was vast and surging, and it was extremely violent. It had a temperature of 10,000 degrees, just like a nuclear explosion. Everyone watched in horror as the huge vital energy foot was smashed into pieces. Then a huge dragon-like flame rose from the ground. The flame dragon grew longer and longer, bearing its fangs and claws. Finally, it became 1,000 meters long and burned towards Hall Master Meng. Each flame could melt gold and iron. The clouds exploded, and the void cracked, distorted, and blurred. Ah! Hall Master Meng didn't expect that he would kick an iron plate. His body was instantly burned and cracked. He was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He screamed and retreated in the air. Chapter 1138. Isn't he a Foundation Establishment Cultivator? How did he defeat a peak stage Golden Core Cultivator? Yeah, he's only a Foundation Establishment Cultivator, but there seems to be a Golden Core in his Dantian. His true essence seems to be endless. How strange! How is that possible? Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. He's extraordinary. Her disciple can kill a Golden Core Cultivator. He must be as powerful as her. However, those who had witnessed Tang Linglong killing a Golden Core Cultivator suddenly realized what had happened. Even so, they were still shocked and their hearts were in turmoil. So powerful. The Prince of Jihan broke out in a cold sweat. He thought that he would have been burned to ashes if he were to fight Star Butcher. It should be noted that Hall Master Meng was an experienced cultivator at the middle stage of the Gold Core realm. Moreover, the quality of his cultivation method and vital essence were far superior to that of the Beast Python, Fairy Londai, and Feng Ao. Go to hell. Jiang Tian clasped his hands behind his back. He didn't move at all. Only boundless flames spewed out from his Dantian, seemingly endless. The flames refined the sky, incinerating the dome of heaven. This is the energy of a superior grade, no, even a super-grade Golden Core. It seems to be inexhaustible. Does he have a divine grade Golden Core? At this moment, even Mingrui, who'd always had an indifferent expression, was visibly moved, and her eyes were filled with shock while her face was covered in disbelief. No. He hasn't formed a Golden Core in his Dantian, but his energy is extremely powerful. It's 5 different kinds of energy: metal, wood, water, fire, and thunder. That's strange. The Grand Elder kept calculating with his fingers, and sensed Jiang Tian's power. He became more and more serious. You want to crush me? Who gave you that confidence? Jiang Tian was bathed in fire and flew into the sky. In front of him, a red sparrow flew in the sky and breathed out endless flames. Each of its flames could burn a Golden Core Cultivator to death. Beneath Jiang Tian's feet, the entire plaza released kacha-kacha noises, everything cracking apart. Terrifying gorges appearing one after another. Many arrays were activated and rays of golden light shot out, trying to resist the heat and flames, but they seemed to be unable to withstand it. I don't believe it. How can a lowly commoner of Yanhuang be my match? Hall Master Meng's hair was charred and blisters appeared all over his body. He was flustered and exasperated. His Dantian rumbled as if there was a primordial beast hibernating there. Immediately, boundless Yuan Qi transformed into a white hornless dragon that leaped out of his chest. It was hundreds of meters long. The white hornless dragon's jade-like scales exploded with a loud clang. Its vertical pupils flickered with a demonic and bloodthirsty aura. It was so cold that it looked like it was carved out of ice jade. It charged towards Jiang Tian. Although the white hornless dragon was formed from Yuan Qi, it was no different from the legendary ancient beasts. This was also a Dharma idol, but it was not formed naturally. The Chongqing sect had a variety of Dharma formulations. This was the Dharma idol he created by extracting the soul of a horned dragon, observing the remains and statues of the immemorial horned dragon, and injecting his true essence into the soul to simulate the horned dragon's charm. However, its power was enormous and could kill a Golden Core late-stage expert. Just as the Crown Prince of Extreme Frost, Shouruhai, and the others were nodding their heads and watching Jiang Tian fall. Boom! The dragon and the sparrow collided with each other. It was as if two ancient beasts were fighting, releasing an earth-shattering energy. That terrifying fluctuation of aura shook the sky to the point of trembling, the earth to the point of undulating. The protective light barriers of the spectators were torn apart like paper, and the space between the two of them transformed into a deep and serene black hole. However, in the next moment, the white hornless dragon was torn into pieces, and the yuan qi inside it exploded uncontrollably. Every true fire of the red sparrow turned into a fire sword. Thousands of fire swords pierced through the air and hit Hall Leader Meng. This is impossible. Hall Leader Meng was sent flying like a leaf in the wind. He was pierced by the fire swords and his blood stained the sky. Moreover, he had a special physique, which was the ice physique, which could suppress high-temperature flames to a certain extent. Otherwise, he would have been burned to ashes in a matter of seconds. How is this possible? This time, everyone was completely shocked. The Crown Prince of Extreme Frost's eyes almost popped out. The divine powers that Jiang Tian used were comparable to those of the top elders in the sect. However, these elders were all in the late Golden Core realm or veteran Golden Core realm. To be able to hold on for 3 seconds, you are indeed capable. Jiang Tian's face was cold. His eyes were filled with coldness as he pointed his finger. Instantly, countless flaming swords continued to gather, forming a 1-meter-long crimson sword that pierced through the air. Sect leader, save me! Grand Elder! Hall Leader Meng's eyes were filled with fear as he retreated frantically. However, it was too late. The true fire of the Red Sparrow was too fast and terrifying. In a flash, it had pierced into Hall Leader Meng's dantian. Ah! It's so hot! Hall Leader Meng's face was filled with unprecedented fear. His eyes bulged out, and he looked as if they were about to burst. In the next moment, his body exploded. Broken bones and fresh blood splattered down along with the red flames. Even his golden core that was like an ice ball was burned to ashes. Nothing was left. The entire audience was shocked. Everyone's hearts were in a state of shock. They didn't dare to believe it. Where did this Yanhuang tribesman come from? He is so powerful. Countless people were tongue-tied and their eyeballs almost popped out. From the moment Hall Leader Meng attacked Jiang Tian to the moment he died, only a few seconds had passed. Jiang Tian had killed him in an instant. One had to know that it was impossible for a Foundation Establishment Cultivator, even a perfected Foundation Establishment Cultivator, to defeat a Golden Core Cultivator. Even if you had the support of a superior grade Dharma treasure, it wouldn't work. The difference in cultivation level was like a natural chasm. It was very difficult to make up for it with external forces like Dharma treasures. However, not only did Jiang Tian not use Dharma treasures, he even broke through the other party's Dharma treasure and Dharma treasure. It was simply too shocking. I wonder if I have the qualifications to challenge the sect leader or the elders. Whoosh! After keeping the true fire of the Red Sparrow back into his dantian, Jiang Tian stepped into the air. Every step he took caused ripples in the air. With his hands behind his back, he asked calmly, "Whoever wants to die, step forward. Or do you want to die together? Come at me together. This guy is so arrogant. He has no respect for anyone. I'll definitely kill him." Many of the new elders' faces turned cold. Their eyes were blazing with anger, as though they wanted to tear Jiang Tian to shreds. Although the Changxing sect did not care about background, only strength. The strong were respected, but that was only among the ancient Tianzhu people. To the Yanhuang tribe, even if you were a genius, you were trash in their eyes. To the experts of the Yanhuang tribe, they had a common enemy. Everyone had the right to kill them without mercy. In their eyes, the Yanhuang tribe members were weak ants. They were despicable lowlifes, like beasts. They were not even qualified to be their slaves. Therefore, Jiang Tian's display of strength not only did not intimidate them, but also aroused their extreme hatred. However, Ming Rui and the Grand Elder were unmoved. They only frowned as they looked at Jiang Tian. No one knew what they were thinking. "Ignorant yellow-skinned monkey, I'll kill you." One of the new elders was so angry at Jiang Tian that his hair stood on end, piercing the heavens like sharp swords. Rumble. He stepped into the air and attacked Jiang Tian. He used a long saber, and the sharp saber light was like a silver river that swept through the air. This saber was extremely sharp. It was about 300 meters long, and could cut through a mountain and dismember a huge warship. You're too weak. Jiang Tian waved his hand, using the gung metal chi soldier to cut through the river of stars. Clang! Jiang Tian cut through the saber light and saber chi like a knife cutting through water. With a swish, a beam of golden light flashed in the sky. The elder had no time to dodge, and was cut in two. His blood flowed like a river, and his corpse fell to the ground. One sword to cut down a jindan. Sharp, unparalleled, domineering, overwhelming. This time, the shock was even more violent and thorough. It was as though the sun and moon had been turned upside down, and the world had been turned upside down. They were dizzy, and their minds were shaken. Many of the elders were shocked, their bodies trembling uneasily. The aura of gung metal. Suddenly, the sect master of the Changshan sect realized something. Her eyes widened, and a smile appeared on her face. A foundation establishment overlord can't be so powerful. He's either a fiend or an evil cultivator. A guest elder's expression changed drastically as he shouted, "What? We don't need to follow the rules of the sect to deal with this fiend. He's not a member of our sect. Let's attack together and kill him." That elder was Feng Baishan's grandfather, Feng Nushan. He hated that his grandson Feng Batian had been killed by Jiang Tian, so he had set his eyes on Jiang Tian. However, his level of attainment was too high. According to the rules of the sect, he couldn't trample on Jiang Tian. Since Jiang Tian had challenged him, he had no choice but to cut Jiang Tian into pieces. "Haha, you're shameless. Who is more evil than the Changshan sect?" Jiang Tian placed his hands behind his back and said mockingly, "You just want to attack me together. There's no need to find excuses. Just come at me together. You want to kill me, and I want to kill all of you. Brat, you're so arrogant. As you wish. Let's kill him together." Shouruhai's eyes were vicious. He stepped on a huge eagle and flew towards Su Quebec. Shouruhai's aura was domineering and bloodthirsty like an ancient beast. With a wave of his hand, numerous beast souls broke through the air, blotting out the sky as they pounced towards Jiang Tian. "Count me in." Boom! Another guest elder had a fierce look in his eyes as he suddenly stomped the ground. Endless clouds and mist condensed into billowing waves that lifted him up. He walked on the waves, and the water around him turned into a few 100-meter-long giant dragons that circled around him. Then, they roared together and charged towards Jiang Tian. Shui Qiancheng. He was at the great circle of the Jindan realm. Little monkey from the Yen Huang tribe must be killed. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble. A black-robed old man with a gloomy aura approached Jiang Tian with a skeletal staff in his hand. Guest Elder Guisha. He was once an evil cultivator, who had dominated the northern region for hundreds of years. He had blood bonded with ghosts and demons and killed countless people. Later, he joined the Changshan sect and became a guest elder. His cultivation techniques were the best of many sects, and his mystiques were unpredictable. His skeleton staff swung and grew in size. His spine was like a dragon and his head was like a millstone. He roared in the wind and spat out black fog and green light. The sinister aura filled the void for thousands of meters. He attacked Jiang Tian. 4 golden core stage elders attacking at the same time. Their strength was so vast that it could destroy the heavens and earth. If the square hadn't been stabilized by the ancient array, the area within 100 kilometers of the Changshan sect would have been destroyed. Very strong. This attack made the Changshan sect leader, Ming Rui, change his expression. The 4 guest elders were different from the ordinary elders. Their status was even higher. They would only attack when the sect was in danger. However, with the strength of the 4 guest elders, they could completely suppress the original 8 elders. They were not willing to give up their Jindan to fight her. If they all attacked at the same time, even if she had already broken through, she would still have to avoid them and would not dare to face them head-on. Chapter 1139. Master. Tang Linglong was extremely nervous. Lady Wu, Yi Karen and Mao Hongdai also turned pale. Li Wuji and Fan Xiuzhu were also trembling in fear. It's over. It's over. Fairy Luomei sighed and shook her head in despair. The 4 guest elders were all at the peak of their cultivation, and their might was overwhelming. They were all originally top-level characters, so how could Jiang Tian have any hope of winning? Even as a smile appeared on Prince Jihan's face. How dare you compete with the sun and the moon? Jiang Tian smiled faintly and stomped his right foot in the air. Boom. With a sound, the swaying divine tree exploded. Thousands of branches swept out, wrapping around the crowd. Kill! Feng Doshan shouted and activated the furious wind thousand blade slash. Tens of thousands of wind blades, each of which could kill a foundation establishment cultivator, formed a wind blade dragon and slashed towards the branches. However, even though the greenwood chi of the whirling godly tree seemed weak, it was actually extremely tough. The wind blades shattered one after another, and the branches twisted into a giant fist that fell from the sky and smashed Feng Doshan to the ground. Clang! The ground trembled as the formation patterns were obliterated. Numerous enormous ravines split open in a ghastly manner. Feng Doshan was an experienced golden core cultivator and had 1,000 years of life. Even so, he couldn't withstand Jiang Tian's attack and spat out blood. The tens of thousands of beast souls rushed towards Jiang Tian like a tsunami, but they were directly smashed into pieces by the tens of thousands of branches. Jiang Tian was hit by the backlash of the beast souls. He vomited blood and staggered backwards. Shui Qianqing's water dragon had just traveled a few hundred meters when Jiang Tian's Xian water azure dragon exploded. The mystic water was heavy and could obliterate everything, while the green dragon was mighty. It tore through the sky and smashed down with its huge claws, knocking Shui Qianqing into the air like a broken kite. Even his ribs were broken. In the end, the black-robed elder Guisha's skeletal staff was shattered by Jiang Tian's lightning-attributed punch. It turned into white bones and scattered in the air. Guisha's arms were fractured and his blood dyed the sky. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Tian had broken through the attacks of 4 guest elders in one breath, and he was completely unharmed. How is this possible? At this moment, everyone was screaming. How can this person have so many mystiques and skills? And each of them is so powerful. The beasts retreated to the edge and howled. They looked as if they had seen an evil spirit. They were all powerful people and had vast resources. However, they only cultivated 1 or 2 skills and couldn't be compared to Jiang Tian, who was proficient in everything. This is terrifying. This person is a freak. I thought the Yanhuang tribe didn't have any legacies? Shui Qianqing coughed out blood from his chest in disbelief. Ah. Feng Doshan didn't even have a chance to speak. He was entangled by the swaying divine tree's branches and smashed into the ground again and again. His body was broken and covered in blood. He was in a miserable state. Continue to attack. Don't hold back. No matter how strong he is, he can't withstand our combined attacks. Guisha's eyes were sinister as he shouted angrily. Shui Qianqing and Shou Ruhai quickly used their secret techniques to heal their wounds and attacked Jiang Tian together. This time, the 4 guest elders fought even more carefully. They covered each other's backs, increasing their power by a few notches. Feng Doshan stirred up a hurricane and wind blade. It was earth-shattering and swept towards Jiang Tian. Shui Qianqing used the wind to form water dragons, water beasts, and water gods. They looked like they could crush space. Shou Ruhai formed the shadows of ancient beasts. Some of them suppressed the sky and some of them roared as if they could break the mountains and tear the sky apart. Especially when Guisha used the flickering light-passing shadow ghost step technique to travel through space, appearing and disappearing suddenly, appearing and disappearing mysteriously. He would often suddenly appear near Jiang Tian and unleash his divine ability, disappearing in a flash after finishing the attack. It was extremely tricky. I hope Immortal Master Jiang can win. If he loses, the Changshan sect will definitely wipe me out and destroy my divine soul. Fairy Luomei's heart was in her mouth. She clenched her fists and sweat beads appeared on her face. Come on, Master. Tang Linglong Yi Karen and Lady Wu felt that it was an eye-opener. These people were too strong. They were only at the Foundation establishment realm and couldn't help at all. Once they entered the battlefield, They would be torn to pieces. Tang Linglong gritted her teeth and made up her mind to cultivate tirelessly, so that she could fight side by side with her master one day. Li Wuji's mind swayed as he watched. He felt dizzy and his vision blurred. He didn't even dare to think about such a divine ability. They're too powerful. And they're so shameless. 4-against-1. Mao Hongdia's face was as pale as a sheet. She was so angry that tears welled up in her eyes. She was worried for Jiang Tian. Open. However, Jiang Tian didn't seem to be at a disadvantage when fighting against 4 divine powers. Jiang Tian's 4 divine bodies had the strength of 4 golden core cultivators, and they were all divine-grade golden core cultivators. Even if they joined forces, Jiang Tian would still be able to suppress them. Suddenly, Jiang Tian was hit by Shui Qianqing's water dragon, and was sent flying 1,000 meters away. He was in great pain. Great! We hit him! The 4 of them cheered. After a long time they finally hit Jiang Tian. Star Butcher, aren't you very powerful? Haha, you're just an ordinary person. Feng Dushan roared triumphantly. In fact, Jiang Tian had beaten them even worse. All 4 of them were covered in blood, and had broken bones and tendons. However, the Chongqing sect had too many healing spells, so they would be able to recover quickly and fight again. Jiang Tian wasn't injured this time. However, Jiang Tian still couldn't bear it. A glint of coldness flashed in Jiang Tian's eyes. He curled his lips and said coldly, "Guys, you've made me really angry. Next, I will finish this battle in 4 moves and the 4 of you will die." If Jiang Tian had said this before, people would have laughed their heads off. However, things were different this time. Jiang Tian had shown part of his strength, and they didn't dare to underestimate him. Watch out! The yellow-skinned monkey is going crazy. Hearing this, the 4 of them suddenly felt a chill down their spines. Their eyes were alert and their bodies were tense, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Kill! Jiang Tian put away his divine powers and gathered his energy. Suddenly, he shouted and displayed the red sparrow Dharma form. Instantly, it was as if a supernova had exploded in Jiang Tian's dantian. Light shone brightly, and endless blazing flames gushed out. A 300-meter-long vermilion bird silhouette appeared in front of Jiang Tian, and then it quickly merged with Jiang Tian. In the end, Jiang Tian turned into a black tortoise statue that was 100 feet tall. It had a bird's head and a human's body. It had arms and wings, and was surrounded by flames like a god of fire. It stepped on the ground and raised its head to the sky. In the whistling sound, billowing flames swept across the area like a sea of fire, and enveloped the 4 of them. I can't take it anymore. The 4 of them suddenly screamed. Many of their avatars collapsed in an instant and terrifying cracks appeared on their bodies. Their defensive restrictions were useless under the burning of the Red Sparrow True Fire. They couldn't hold on for more than a second. The 4 of them dragged their broken bodies and fled in a sorry state. However, the sea of fire was too large and almost filled the entire square. Moreover, Jiang Tian continued to spit out flames to chase after him. It only took a few breaths of time. Arg! Shou Ruhai, who had the slowest movement technique, couldn't hold on any longer. With a scream, his body collapsed and turned into a wisp of green smoke. His divine soul was destroyed and disappeared from the world. Stop it. Otherwise I'll kill your people. Gui Sha used the flickering light-passing shadow movement technique and rushed into the sky, breaking free of the sea of fire. Then he grabbed at Tang Linglong and the others in the audience. In the palm of his hand, streaks of evil spirit chi spewed out and formed a huge skull. It opened its bloody mouth and seemed to be able to swallow the sky. Elder Gui Sha is amazing. By disrupting his mind, he will definitely be able to turn the situation around. Humph, water must have entered his brain. He was trampled by an elephant and actually brought his companions here. Won't he be surrounded and killed by us in minutes? Seeing this, many disciples nodded in approval. This Star Butcher is too arrogant and condescending. Not only did he come in alone, but he also brought a group of useless disciples and friends. Does he think we can't kill them? Crown Prince Jihan's face was full of mockery as he shook his head in disdain. Some disciples had gloomy expressions and were ready to kill. They wanted to wait for an opportunity to attack Tang Linglong and the others. Guisha, try and kill my people if you dare. Seeing this, Jiang Tian's eyes were overflowing with coldness. He divided his attention and unleashed his primordial qi. The 1,000-foot-tall divine General Gung Jin suddenly appeared and rushed up high. His long saber swept toward the disciples in the audience. Boom! The divine Gung Jin body was in the phenomenal success stage and was not to be underestimated. When the saber slashed down, it was extremely sharp and the layers of protective light shields were all shattered. When the saber slashed down, the Grand Elder's expression changed, but he could not stop it. The huge saber light that was about 1,000 meters long was extremely dazzling. It pierced the sky like a huge sun rising. At this moment, within a radius of 100 miles, the entire Longevity Mountain was illuminated by this earth-shattering saber. Even the ordinary people in the mortal city at the foot of the mountain saw this scene. Who is this expert? It's too shocking. It's simply an unparalleled power. How terrifying. I heard that a Yanhuang tribesman appeared and challenged the sect leader. He must be a peerless expert. The outer sect disciples of the Longevity sect who could not enter the square were all shocked. They were discussing and holding their breath. Their faces were full of fear, and their hearts were in turmoil. They could not calm down for a long time. On the square, the huge saber light poured down like the Milky Way, destroying everything. Any protective mystiques or Dharma treasures were useless. Boom! There was a loud sound and the ground shook. The seats around the square had a huge gap cut open, like a meteorite crater. That area no longer existed. At least 10,000 disciples were slashed, their flesh and blood splattered. They died on the spot. At this moment, a quarter of the audience was turned into a battlefield. Blood flowed, broken limbs piled up, organs and bones flew everywhere. Screams rang out, and the thick smell of blood filled the air. Ah! It hurts so much. Save me. My leg, my leg. This attack killed at least 10,000 people. Many of the Longevity sect disciples had their intestines pierced and their limbs broken, but they were not completely dead. They screamed in agony. This star butcher is too cruel. Yeah, this person is a demon. He's a demon. The power of one saber is so terrifying. At this moment, the other disciples were shocked to the point of being dumbstruck, and they felt a chill run down their spines. Their entire bodies trembled without end, and they looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a devil. Even some of the hall masters were scared out of their wits. Facing the attack of the ghostly fiends, Jiang Tian did not rescue the disciples at all. Instead, he fought among himself. If you dare to touch them, I'll kill your Longevity sect disciples. At this moment, the Prince of Extreme Frost and many others understood. This Yanhuang tribe cultivator, known as the Star Butcher, had never been stupid or arrogant. He had always kept a low profile, because he had the ability to protect his disciples and friends. To him, the Longevity sect was not a dragon's lair or a tiger's den. It was as easy as entering an uninhabited land. Anyone who dares to harm a hair of my disciples and friends will be buried with the 100,000 disciples of the Longevity sect. Jiang Tian's face was cold, his eyes as calm as still water. It was as though killing 10,000 people was just killing a few ants. Chapter 1140. Guisha don't. The white-bearded Grand Elder suddenly made a move and used a secret technique. He pointed his finger in the air and broke Elder Guisha's skull avatar. Grand Elder, why are you stopping me? Why don't you kill his disciples? But many of our disciples have been killed. Guisha once again condensed a skeleton devil and shouted unwillingly. The white-bearded Grand Elder's cheek muscles twitched as he thought quickly. Jiang Tian had killed 10,000 of his disciples with a single slash, causing his heart to ache to the extreme. He was also furious to the extreme. He wanted nothing more than to tear Jiang Tian into pieces. They were the future hope of the sect. They were the elites that they had nurtured for many years. But now they were all destroyed. Of course, he wanted to kill Jiang Tian. However, after Divine General Gung Jin slashed, he floated in the air and pointed his long blade at the other disciples in the seats. As long as Guisha did not stop, Divine General Gungjin would only need to slash a few times to destroy the Changshan sect. The Changshan sect had a typical pyramid structure. Although the elders and sect leaders were powerful, they were all supported by the blood essence of the disciples at the bottom. If the base of the pyramid was destroyed, the top of the pyramid would become a pavilion in the air. It would eventually collapse and nothing would be achieved. In the end, the Grand Elder gritted his teeth and said coldly, "Gui Sha, you are not allowed to attack fellow cultivator Xing Tu's disciples and friends. We will fight according to the rules. Otherwise, I will kill you first." Yes. Gui Sha was so angry that he vomited blood. He broke the skull demon that he had just formed. However, he did not dare to rush into the battlefield and fight with Jiang Tian. Instead, he hid in the protective shield of the spectator seats and waited to see what would happen. He was so frightened that he was trembling. Jiang Tian was too powerful. He could not compare to him at all. He had not figured out whether he should run away or fight with Jiang Tian to the death. Shui Qianqing let out a miserable cry. The protective shield formed by the water essence shattered and was burned to ashes. In the next moment, Feng Doshan could not hold on any longer. He broke into pieces of black charcoal and fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, Gui Sha was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He trembled and his knees went soft. He directly knelt down in the air and kowtowed like he was pounding garlic. "This junior is no match for you, so I admit defeat." This junior was only bewitched by Shou Ruhai's instigation. "Senior Star Slaughter, please show mercy and spare this junior's life." Everyone was dumbstruck when they saw this. They were scared silly by Jiang Tian's monstrous domineering aura, and they were unable to recover from their shock for a long time. In the blink of an eye, from the time Jiang Tian attacked to killing 3 guest elders, scaring Gui Sha into kneeling and begging for mercy, it had only been a few breaths of time. Jiang Tian's might seriously exceeded their imaginations. They were confused. Since when did the Yan Huang tribe have such an expert at the sect master level? Why had it never appeared before? Most importantly, Jiang Tian was too ruthless. Gui Sha had attacked Tang Linglong and the others, and Jiang Tian had killed 10,000 of their fellow sect members to completely intimidate them. Such decisiveness and ruthlessness made them feel as though a bucket of ice water had been poured over their heads. They were chilled from head to toe. "Spare your life? Ridiculous." Jiang Tian stood proudly in the air and laughed. "If you fail to kill me and everyone says that it was someone else who instigated it, I will spare your life. In the future, everyone will think that I am easy to bully and will come to humiliate me and kill me. Although you are as weak as an ant in my eyes, I am afraid of trouble. Therefore, I will use your dog life to warn the world that I, Star Butcher, am not to be trifled with." After hearing half of it, Gui Sha knew that things were not going well. He used his spatial secret technique and stepped on the ground. His body disappeared into the air. When he appeared again, he was already a few kilometers away, almost escaping out of the square. "Kiki, you want to run? If I want to kill someone, who in this world can run away from me?" Jiang Tian chuckled. In the depths of his eyes, the purple lightning eye ring expanded and flashed. 2 bolts of purple lightning zigzagged out. The 2 lightning bolts looked ordinary, but when they passed through the air, they directly pierced through the air and created a long crack. Gui Sha didn't even have time to take a second step before he was blown into nothingness by the purple lightning. His body turned into ashes and even his golden core was shattered, leaving nothing behind. The guest elder, a golden core overlord, Gui Sha, was dead. STTH. Seeing this scene, everyone began to tremble and their faces turned ashen. A purple lightning bolt shot out from his eyes and killed a golden core cultivator 10 miles away. That was terrifying. "It's over. It's over. This person is a vengeful person. Why was I so mean?" The Prince of Jihan trembled in fear, and yellow urine came out from his legs. A golden core cultivator was scared to the point of peeing on the spot. But in Jiang Tian's eyes, there was no such thing as an ant. He turned around and looked at the sect master of the Changshan sect, Ming Rui, calmly. "I wonder if I'm qualified to challenge you now? Why don't I kill a few more elders for you to see? I should call you Kong Te Chu." Ming Rui, the sect master of the Changshan sect, was like a goddess in the sky. She smiled and said in a sweet voice, "Don't worry, brotherly. I've never thought that you would go to West Earth so quickly." Boom. Once that was said, the whole place was in an uproar. It was as if waves were rolling, tsunamis and hurricanes were sweeping across. Everyone's expression changed drastically. They were dumbstruck as they looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. They whispered in each other's ears and discussed animatedly. "So he's the top cultivator of Earth, Kang Taechu. You're really bold." Taking an unconventional path, he actually charged into the depths of West Earth alone. That's unexpected. He's indeed extraordinary. How terrifying. This is a risky move, trying to catch them off guard. Many people were shocked, and some of them were even unwilling to admit that they admired him. If someone had said that Kang Taechu of Earth had entered West Earth to attack the Changshan sect, they would have laughed their heads off and treated him as a fool. In the eyes of the overlords of West Earth, the human race on Earth had lost their Tao teachings and was as vulnerable as insects. But now, Jiang Tian had already killed the 4 guest elders, and it was an instant kill. Pointing his sword at Ming Rui made them realize Jiang Tian's terrifying strength. "That's right. It's me." Jiang Tian didn't deny it. He stood in the air with his hands behind his back and said calmly, "I'm going to kill you. I'm going to become the master of this world. Attack." A few simple words came out of Jiang Tian's ears. However, in the ears of the crowd, it was no different from a sudden clap of thunder. How audacious of him. This kid is simply unrestrained, domineering, and fierce to the extreme. He was indeed a master of the Overlord realm. Even if those worlds weren't as powerful as West Earth, they were still the masters of the worlds. So he's Kang Taechu, the one who controls Earth and Stellar Sky domain. Kang Taechu. Crown Prince Ji-han smiled bitterly and suddenly felt like he was a frog at the bottom of a well, a clown. It was ridiculous and ignorant to the extreme. Before this, he had looked down on Jiang Tian and thought that Jiang Tian was from a lowly race and wasn't qualified to be on the same level as him. He even felt ashamed of being Jiang Tian's personal disciple. Today, at the blood-bathing ceremony, he wanted to suppress Jiang Tian and become the cult master's favorite personal disciple. He didn't expect that Jiang Tian was actually a master of a world, and he wasn't after the position of a personal disciple. This breadth of mind, this domineering aura, this limitless authority. How could he, a mere prince of a mundane country, be compared to him? So his real identity is actually... Mao Billian's eyes almost popped out. She had heard of Kang Taechu's name long ago. It was said that he was the strongest person in Earth domain, and had even dominated other dimensional worlds. What was laughable was, she had thought that Jiang Tian needed the Mao clan's protection, and had looked down on him because of his identity as Jiang Tian's guard. Why didn't he tell me? He probably thought that a small character like me wasn't qualified to talk to him. I looked down on him so much, why didn't he kill me? Did he think that I wasn't qualified for him to make a move? But now she finally understood that Jiang Tian was a master of the Overlord realm, and wanted to kill the Longevity Sect master, and become the master of the Overlord realm. With such a status and strength, he didn't need the Mao clan's protection. In fact, Jiang Tian had been helping and saving the Mao clan. At this moment, a strong sense of regret surged in her heart. She only felt that this was the biggest joke in her life. Kang Taechu, you saw it too. What the Longevity Sect is doing is to open a path for the people in the world, and to transcend this world. The Longevity Sect master, Ming Rui, was extremely beautiful. Her eyes were sad and weathered as she said patiently, "For this goal, countless seniors and sages of the Longevity Sect have sacrificed their flesh and blood without fear of death. I wonder if today's matter has touched you? Although your sect's teachings are bewitching, your spirit of pursuing the limits of cultivation and climbing to the peak of cultivation has indeed shocked and impressed me." Jiang Tian nodded slightly and said honestly, "Your cultivation arts and resources aren't the best in West Earth. But you're like a warrior cutting his wrist and scraping his bones to heal his wounds. You're daring enough to cut off the rotten and weak parts through the sect competition, and keep renewing your body. That's why you're ranked as the top cultivation arts in West Earth." Kong Teichu, you're indeed the top overlord on earth. You're really knowledgeable. The longevity sect master, Ming Rui's eyes glittered, and a hint of joy appeared on her face. She said with a gentle voice, "You're not like those fake Taoists who are full of blood, cruelty and disregard human relations when they see what the longevity sect does. My friend, to be honest, I admire you very much. Why don't we bury the hatchet and shake hands and make peace? From now on, I, Ming Rui, will support you to dominate the world on earth and let you take care of the Brahmin." A trace of shyness and joy appeared on her face, like a delicate flower shining on the water, beautiful beyond compare. She was obedient and said softly, "Besides, I don't have a cultivation partner, and I've always been alone. If you're willing, I'm willing to become your cultivation partner, and teach you the power of my essence. From now on, my husband will have the final say in the longevity sect. You and I can climb the path of deity hand in hand, and pursue the supreme great Tao. Isn't that wonderful?" Once she said that, everyone went silent. Everyone looked at each other in dismay, not daring to believe it. Is the sect master proposing in public? Chapter 1141. The people of West Earth were brave and open-minded. Women could boldly propose to men in public. Jiang Tian and Ming Rui, the sect master of the Changshan sect, were like two armies facing each other. Many people were surprised by what the sect master had done. "Sect master, you're wise." However, some of the more experienced members of the Jianghu nodded their heads. The Changshan sect was indifferent to life and death. They regarded blood, family and relationships as worthless. They only focused on the strong and kept challenging the strong. They only pursued the supreme Tao and cultivated to the limit. For example, if a cultivator killed the father of another cultivator, the latter wouldn't avenge his father if his cultivation was higher than the cultivator. The sect master of the Changshan sect didn't care how many people Jiang Tian had killed. As long as Jiang Tian was willing to join the Changshan sect, they would let bygones be bygones. As long as Jiang Tian was a strong cultivator, he would be worthy of the sect master of the Changshan sect. And now, Jiang Tian had killed 3 guest elders in a row. The strength he showed was already at the perfected golden core realm. Besides, Jiang Tian was very young and he was the dominator of Earth. His future was limitless. He was no less than the Tower Master of Tingyu Tower. The sect master of the Changshan sect chose him. It seemed unreasonable, but in fact it was very rational. Ascending to the sky in one step. Ascending to the sky in one step. At the same time, many young male cultivators were looking at Jiang Tian with envy and jealousy. They couldn't wait to replace him. That's right. If Jiang Tian absorbed the primordial yin of the sect master of the Changshan sect, it would be equivalent to hundreds of years of cultivation. It could push Jiang Tian from the foundation establishment realm to the perfected foundation establishment realm, and directly to the golden core realm. Lying on the lap of a beauty while drunk and holding the power of the world when sober, pushing his cultivation to infinitely higher. That was simply the dream of many male cultivators. He was originally a mortal enemy, but he conquered the sect master with just a little bit of cultivation. It would be a good story if it were to be spread. Yes, that's what a real man should do. Many people sighed inwardly as they looked at Jiang Tian, who was standing in the air, with reverence in their eyes. Although they couldn't see him, they yearned to see him. In the crowd, Lady Wu pursed her lips and said with a smile, "Immortal Master Jiang is really powerful. He took down the Changshan sect without using a single soldier." Li Wuji shook his head and sighed. "It's good to be young. Being handsome makes one invincible. I can't compare to you. I can't compare to you." Senior Luo Mei, big brother Jiang won't agree, right? Mao Hongdai, on the other hand, looked very nervous. She clenched her fists tightly. Fairy Luo Mei laughed bitterly. She was also unsure. Jiang Tian had once rejected her request for dual cultivation. It could be seen that he was deeply in love with his wife and had a strong sense of morality. However, the so-called devotion and loyalty were only because the temptation was not great enough. No matter how good Jiang Tian's wife was, she was only a mortal woman. How could she be compared to the deathless sect master who was like a goddess? Tang Linglong secretly gritted her teeth and snorted disdainfully. Why are the women of West Earth so cheap? What a seductive woman. Keep dreaming. How could my master possibly take a fancy to you? Of course, only a minority of Tang Linglong thought so. Most of them thought that Jiang Tian would definitely agree, because if he rejected the temptation of working a few hundred years less, he would be out of his mind. Hee, deathless sect master, you think too highly of yourself. Jiang Tian shook his head gently and said mockingly, You're giving me charity. Do you think you're giving me alms? Do you think you're high and mighty? Do you think you can wait until I shed tears of gratitude? Wrong. Don't even think about it. I already have a wife. Don't even think about coveting my beauty. You should know that I'm here to kill you. He rejected her? Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They could not believe it. Your wife's cultivation is stronger than mine? The deathless sect master asked calmly. No. At least not now. She has yet to enter the foundation establishment realm. She is pregnant and has been bedridden for a long time. She is in a precarious state. Then, do you think I'm not beautiful enough? The longevity sect's sect leader asked with a proud expression. You're not bad looking. Jiang Tian sneered. This woman had a voluptuous chest, a slender waist and slender legs. Her figure was tall and sexy, and she was even more attractive than the supermodels on Earth. She had just absorbed the blood of countless living people to nourish her body. At this moment, her skin was tender and flawless like a newborn baby, snow-white and crystalline, and her face was gorgeous to the extreme. Coupled with her domineering and overbearing temperament, she was like a high and mighty empress overlooking the world. She was capable of arousing the desire of any man to conquer her. Then why didn't you agree? Ming Rui asked. There's no reason. Because I don't love you at all. Jiang Tian looked at her with disdain and said coldly. In their eyes, you're the sect master and a goddess above the world. But in my eyes, you're not even as good as a strand of hair on my wife's head. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? You're a few hundred years old. You want to sleep with me. You want to covet my handsome face. You're much prettier than you are. What's in your head? Poop. Can you have some self-awareness? After hearing what he said, the entire place went silent. Not a single sound could be heard in the square within a few kilometers. The tens of thousands of people present were dumbfounded. Their tongues were tied, and they couldn't say a word. Has your master always been so narcissistic? Fairy Luomei looked at Tang Linglong and said dumbfoundedly. She's too mean. Even if she rejected him, she didn't have to attack him like that. Lady Wu felt a bit sorry for the deathless sect master. That's right. She's too hateful. She had a chance to negotiate peacefully, but now she's fighting to the death. Li Wuji sighed and lamented. That's not all. Any woman who covets my master's beauty is asking for trouble. My master will kill her. Tang Linglong grunted. Kong Teichu, you're courting death. As expected, Ming Rui was enraged. A furious roar that was like rolling thunder came out from her full chest, shocking everyone present. She was furious. She was furious like never before. Even though she had cultivated for a few hundred years, she was still a woman after all. When you humiliated someone with your age and appearance, it was even worse than killing her. You aunt. I've already given you a chance to live, but you don't know it, and you still dare to humiliate me like that. Ming Rui, the sect master of the longevity sect, ground her teeth. Her clear eyes were burning with anger. She was fuming. She rose slowly like a dragon and her clothes fluttered in the wind. She looked down at Jiang Tian as if he were an ant and shouted, Bastard! Do you really think you can show off in front of me just because you killed a few golden core cultivators and a few guest elders? How dare you underestimate me? I'm a superior grade golden core cultivator and a nascent soul cultivator. I can kill you as easily as killing a chicken. Are you finally angry? Are you going to fight? Jiang Tian stood with his hands behind his back and looked cold. I've been waiting for a long time. It's time to fight. Women just love to chatter. You can't compare to my wife. Very well. As you wish, I'll send you on your way. It's also your honor. Ming Rui, the sect master of the longevity sect, widened her eyes slightly when she heard this. Her eyes were filled with killing intent and hatred. A trace of determination flashed across her beautiful face. She suddenly attacked, slamming her palm down at Jiang Tian. The sky cracked and the moon and the sun hung upside down. The power of the slap was earth-shattering. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.